of entry into this meeting are posted at the entry door of the public gallery. Members of the public are advised to read them prior to attending this meeting. And as always, I ask all members of the public gallery and councillors to keep any comments or questions respectful to the councillors, the council and other members present. Item 3, attendance and apologies. All councillors are present in the chamber other than Councillor Parry. He was here a short time ago. He's had to return home for an urgent item. And I've given him approval to attend electronically. And once he comes up electronically, I'll get him to make the declaration that he's in a secure location for any confidential items, and that the system he's using has got a security system on it. Item 4, declarations of financial or proximity interest or interest affecting impartialities. Mr. CEO, I know there's one from Ms. Meryl Pickering. Executive Management Place stakeholder engagements declared an impartiality in item 3.2, the Allenbrook Arts conditional grant, as she is a board member of Allenbrook Arts. And earlier today, I submitted one as the presiding member. I've declared a direct financial interest in item C1.6. It's a notice of motion by Councillor Bowman regarding vacant land rate, as I own a vacant land property in Beachborough. Are there any others, councillors? Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At the start of the meeting, I've received a disclosure of interest from Councillor Johnson. It's an impartiality interest in item 13.3, noting the reason is he is a regular customer of the Rusty Old Boat. That's the only declaration at this stage, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, if there's none other from staff or councillors, we'll move to item time, public question time. And questions and answers recorded in the minutes of the meeting may be summarised in accordance with the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996. Questions and answers marked with an asterisk have been amended either for the purpose of summarising, that is removing preambles or statements, or for editing. Item 5.1, answers to questions which were taken on notice. There were nil. Item 5.2, questions relating to reports contained in the agenda. And 5.2.1, questions of which due notice were given. And there was one question last week from Ms. Francesca Irwin. And the question was, for a period between November 2nd, 2022 and December 7th, 2022, how many letters or email has the council received in regards to the motion, and how many have supported the Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan until a further review is undertaken? I'm advised there were 13 emails or letters in support of the review and 2 not in support. But in the last week since that agenda forum, there have been many, many more come in, and it'll be about an even balance from both sides. Item 5.2.2, questions without due notice. I ask if any member of the public would like to ask a question on an item on the agenda, please. Being no questions, was there? Sorry, I didn't see your hand go up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Kevin Bailey and I'm a board member of the Swan Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here to ask for some clarity in regards to comments made on social media by elected members and wannabe elected members around a $200 million spend of ratepayers' money on New Junction. I draw your attention to page 19 of the New Junction Business Plan, and it lists a number of options that council may wish to take if it chooses to construct a new civic building, multi-deck car park and community building. Page 19 also states that the construction of these buildings plus numerous parks and infrastructure is likely to be in the region of $200 million. My first question, Mr. Mayor, has council made a decision on these buildings or any of the options presented on page 19 of the business plan?
I haven't got page 19 in front of me, Mr. Bailey, but all of those options are for a future council to decide. So there's been no decisions made on public infrastructure, administration building, and what was the other one? Your multi-deck car park. None of those decisions have been made.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that being the case, comment made that this council is going to spend $200 million of ratepayers' money on the aforementioned in the near future, if at all, at this point in time are simply not the case.
Well, no decision's been made by this council at this time.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I wonder if any council would like to contradict the Mayor. I didn't think so. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I'll ask again, are there any other questions relating to the agenda from members in the gallery?
I apologise, mine's tangential, I'll leave it to the next category. I apologise, I put my hand up early. So
That's all right. I think the gentleman behind you, if you could please come forward, state your name and ask your question, please.
My name's James Pollard. I'm a ratepayer. My question is to all the councillors relating to the motion to revoke the norm this evening. My question is, should the vote not proceed to cancel the motion that we've, should the vote to revoke the norm not proceed and be voted down, are all councillors in this chamber then prepared to go ahead with the norm as voted for on the 2nd of December in good faith and to commit to not obstruct it in any further sense and to help it move ahead?
Thank you, Mr. Pollard. I'll ask all councillors, if you wish to answer, you can. But from my point of view, we live in a democracy. I'm hoping that at the end of this meeting, once the decision is made, it will be accepted and respected by all councillors present.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Does any councillor want to answer? Then thank you. If there's no further questions, then I'll go to 5.3, other questions, and 5.3.1, questions of which due notice had been given. And Mr. Simon Ashby had asked 9 questions. The answer had been provided in the run sheets. Is Mr. Ashby present in the chambers? No, those answers have been provided and they'll be recorded in the minutes of this meeting. Mr. Sean Hughes asked, Mr. Ashby, you're here. Is there anything arising out of those questions?
I haven't really, I don't get to the answers, so I can't really comment on that because you've run out of copies.
Okay, well, I'll try and get him handed a copy, but in the meantime, Mr. Ashby, if you can have a read of those, rather than delay the proceedings now, if there's anything that arises out of them, if you could please contact city staff. The next person asking questions under the same area is Mr. Sean Hughes, who had 6 questions. Those answers have been provided and will be in the minutes of this meeting. Is Mr. Hughes in the gallery? No. I just have to turn over a number of pages, councillors, because they are quite extensive questions. Mr. Bob McHugh asked 7 questions, and all those have been taken off notice as they will require detailed answers, and they will be answered in due course and recorded in the minutes of this meeting. Takes us to item 5.3.2, questions without due notice. Is there any member of the public gallery who wishes to ask a question on any item on the agenda? Thank you. On the agenda, Ms. Hughes?
tangentially.
Well, it's on the agenda or it's not.
Well, it relates to Midland Oval, but in a peripheral way.
Well, it
So
relates to
what-
Midland Oval, that is on the council agenda, so I'll allow you to ask your questions.
So can I ask you, is there a category for a question that is not on the agenda? Because I understood there was, and I'll wait for that if you prefer.
I'm just trying to read ahead. I can't see any on my run sheet, Ms. Hughes. So I've said, you've said it relates to Midland Oval,
Well,
so please ask
look,
your
it
question.
is a bit on the peripheral side to that, but I understood that there was a category where a question could be asked that was not on the agenda.
5.3.
Yeah, okay. So have I stood up too early, or shall I just go ahead?
Got to go back in my run sheet now. There's 3 divisions in 5.3, Councillor Johnson. Ms. Hughes, I'm happy to take your questions, so
Thank
please
you.
ask them.
Thank you. I have 2 questions, and they are expressly directed to councillors yourself, Congerton, Zanino and Williams. The brief context to those questions is that in 2010-11, on the solicitation of a land developer, council resolved to sell the Bellevue Oval to that developer to add to his existing portfolio of land. Despite a 96% of submitters opposing that sale, you four councillors supported the sale amidst claims of the reinvigoration of the area, the high quality development that would stimulate the area, and the piece de resistance was a 13-hectare Aboriginal and European precinct of passive recreation linked to the Helena River. My first question to the four of you, if you're prepared to answer, is have any of you ever returned to that oval to see if any of those supposed outcomes materialised? And my second question, and then I'll sit down, is do any of you four know what, over the last 12 years, the land known as the Bellevue Oval, what use that land has been put to?
I'll have to take it on notice, because my memory doesn't extend back that far with clarity, so I'm happy to take it on notice. Well, I don't know. I don't think you were asked the question, Councillor Catalano.
Yeah, I was sort of asking the four councillors who supported it, and the brief answer is it didn't ever occur. None of it occurred. And if you go up there, there's in fact a nursery, a commercial nursery in the Bellevue Oval. So that's all. That's what I wanted to draw to your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Takes us to the next item. Item 6, public statement time. I've been advised that the first presenter, Mr. Jake Kinney, is no longer presenting. And just in relation to public statement time, requests for this were required by 10 a.m. on the today, and we had 8 people registered to make a public statement. Each person has a time limit of 2 minutes to make their public statement. As Mr. Kenny is no longer here, the next presenter is Ms. Cheryl Kickett-Tucker from Koya. It's in regards to item 3.1, Binar Future. Thank you, Cheryl. Once you start talking, you'll have 2 minutes. I'm not going to interrupt you, except for when the 2 minutes is up, I'll say thank you very much.
My name is Professor Cheryl Kickett-Tucker. I'm a traditional Whadjuk Noongar Yorker from the City of Swan region, born and bred, live here, went to school here, part of an Aboriginal community organisation that has been running for 18 years, founded by my father, a stolen generation survivor. I am here in the honour of my people, and I stand here as a Whadjuk Yorga to make this presentation. But I would like to say the information provided to you councillors via email by the Binar Corporation on the December the 13th is actually incorrect information. And we have some proof in regards to that. So my presentation is about the Binar Futures proposal, and not actually the proposal, it's the process per se. So I will read this statement, and it says the culturally appropriate process of Aboriginal engagement and consultation was not performed. I say this because of the following reasons. There has been only one community workshop. Despite the City of Swan management asking the proponents to communicate directly with myself, being an ex-Swan City Mustang basketballer and a WNBL basketballer and coach and umpire, and also to speak directly with Koya, and this did not occur. Koya is a true community development not-for-profit organisation that prides itself on serving the City of Swan for the past 18 years, and this has been overlooked. We have senior management at Koya, and none were invited to the one and only workshop held this year. The previous association, the Swan Districts Amateur Basketball Association people were not consulted. I was one of those people. Secondly, because of the lack of process, Aboriginal governance and cultural protocols have not been identified, respected and followed. Engagement and consultation will prove to be effective and culturally appropriate if and when relationships exist, and often in our realities, this takes time and sometimes considerable amounts of time and experience to build up. This is the foundation on which access to our people will occur,
Thank you,
then
Professor.
engagement and
Thank
consultation.
you. That is your 2 minutes. Well, I've got to be strict, Councillor Johnson. We've got 7 other presenters, and our guidelines state that public statement time should be limited to
Even to a
15 minutes.
traditional owner in this
So I'm
country.
sorry, you should have been advised, and you've got to make your public statement fit within the 2 minutes. I'm sorry,
Mr.
Cheryl,
Mayor,
but
can I move that we do allow Professor Tucker to continue?
well, can I ask, are you going to move for every other speaker in public statement time have the same opportunity, Councillor Johnson?
We're only discussing this particular, I'm only moving on this particular motion, this particular
Well, I'll
item.
put it to the council. You're moving that way. You're seconding Councillor Richardson. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The motion is passed. How much longer do you
Only a
need?
little bit more. Sorry, I should have said that I do can speak the legs off the table. Apologise to everybody.
I'll
Okay.
give you 1 further minute.
Okay, thank you. Being a matriarchal society, there were no Aboriginal women participating at the workshop. The respect for our eldership was overlooked and none participated in the workshop. There were no ACOs participating in the workshop. Third, the policies and strategies such as the City of Swan RAP, CTG reform and quite possibly the Indigenous procurement policies have not been invited to in the process which has been facilitated by the City of Swan. Why wasn't there a tender process to the market so a transparent and competitive and equitable process was achieved by the City of Swan? Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your
Appreciate the
public
extra
statement.
time.
Thank you. The next person to make a public statement is Donna Nelson from Pioneers in regard to the same item. Thank you, Donna. You'll have 2 minutes. I won't interrupt you until you get to the end of your 2 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So my name is Donna Nelson. I'm a Whadjuk. I've got Whadjuk connection through my mother's mother's mother, so a matriarchal connection through the Bennett family. I'm a Nyarki Ballagong woman from the Wheat Belt, but I've actually spent 30 years plus working extensively in the City of Swan. So I'm hoping that you've read my bio, where I've sat on as chair of Swan Indigenous Reference Group, who provided advice to your previous mayor, rest in peace, Charlie Gregorini, who in my view was probably one of the best mayors we've ever seen in this local government. No disrespect to yourself, Mayor. You can see how extensively I've worked within the education system and the child protection system, working with Swan Valley Noongar community, working with Saunders Street, and still have a really good relationship with Kalakabadi. You probably would have noticed that I also ran for the Australian Greens in the Pierce, which would have been previously Christian Porter's old portfolio as living in Ellenbrook. So I have an extensive knowledge and history in this region. My concern, like Cheryl says, is around the disempowerment, the oppression, and the violation of us as matriarchal women to provide advice and actually denying us our right as women around childbearing and raising our children. So when we talk about working with our children, and you would see that I've worked for 30 years plus with the Boom Room, as a youth worker in this space, still working in Ellenbrook with kids here from Governor Stirling, Caversham, still within the City of Swan. My passion has been and will continue to be, and that connection that I have, it spans 50 years going back to a child who have family living in this region. My concern is if we're not consulted through this process, it continues to violate our rights as First Nations women and our right to actually be empowered through this process to speak for our children and speak for our community. And I don't think that is right. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. That's your 2 minutes. Well timed. The next speaker is Mr. Gavin Farmer, also on the item. Thank you, Mr. Farmer. You'll have 2 minutes. I won't interrupt until you get to the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, councillors. I'm here to speak about it as well. The community workshop that they're speaking about, I was actually working for Koya at the time. Adam Desmond from Binner had actually reached out to me to see if Koya would like to be a part of the engagement program or the engagement meeting. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend due to family commitments and stuff outside of my control. I did actually pass the message on to 2 workers within Koya, one actually being present and another one is not here, and they're both within leadership roles within Koya as well. And it goes back to another thing where Koya ran a youth summit program this year for kids aged 5 to 12 years old. And I'm here to support Binner because of the inclusiveness they have to not just the Aboriginal community, the whole community. And this gives every kid in the Midland and City of Swan area a chance to play basketball and go further. They're inclusive to everyone. Doesn't matter what background you're from. If you want to play sport, if you want to be involved as a mentor, coach, umpire, anything like that, they're willing to do it. And Adam does a lot of it off his back, transports a lot of people around, even helps kids from other basketball clubs. And going back to the youth summit, there was a comment made about us. My kids play basketball for Binna. I've said in this team meeting, I've said I'm going to hand some flyers out, invites to these kids at Binna. And one of the comments that came back to me was, "Oh no, if they're with Binna, they can't come." I was a bit taken aback by that. Then I said, well, to be inclusive, we need to include everyone, all kids in the area, give them opportunity. And then the next comment was, well, if they come, they can't wear anything representing Binna. So my statement up here is to say that Koya was invited to be a part of the community workshop. They chose not to be a part of it because it's Binna. It's a rivalry. Aboriginal lateral violence is real. It's not going to go away. When you've got people in charge making decisions and impacting kids through adult disputes, it's not good.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer. That's your 2 minutes. And the next speaker on the same item is Mr.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a question. If there's this kind of allegation being made, which is saying that information was passed on, I'd really like to hear Koya's response to that.
Well,
Otherwise, we've got a one-sided rendition here. I don't think that's accurate.
These are public
for us.
statements. There's no provision to answer questions at this point in time, Councillor Podovnik. The next speaker is Mr. Andrew Vlahov on the same item. Thank you, Mr. Vlahov. You'll have 2 minutes. I won't interrupt until you've spoken for 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, councillors, guests and other attendees. I acknowledge that I'm meeting you today on Whadjuk Noongar Butcher, and I pay my respects to elders past and present, including the good work that both Dr. Cheryl Kikataka has done with Koya and Ms. Nelson with Pioneers. This is not about rivalry. This is about our youth here today. And I'm here representing not only our board, which is an Indigenous majority board, it is about all the people that were represented in that stakeholder engagement, which you have a copy of. We were comprehensive in nature. We took guidance from the city about who should and shouldn't be included in that process. We went back through it again and again this past week to make sure that it was correct, and it is. It is documented. I have limited time, so I am going to speak frankly. You are voting today on an endorsement. This is not a clear and concise recommendation from the people you employ to give you guidance on council matters. This is not a vote on a consultative process. That process has been documented, was transparent, consultative and definitive. It is why Leisure Services endorsed our proposal. There will be future community stakeholder forums going forward. As previously outlined, any deferral has negative impacts on our ability to conduct a fair, inclusive competition with integrity. I don't know many things, but I do know basketball. And to ensure a well-organised competition that is got community at its heart, you need to be precise with the management and the timelines in question. We are experts at Binna in managing this for community. That is why we have over 1,670 participants involved in our program. It is an amazing achievement that is largely unfunded. There is no need for a deferral. This is a vote on endorsement of the matter at hand.
Thank you, Andrew. That's your 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next speaker on a different item is Miss Francesca Irwin in regards to the Midland Oval redevelopment. Thank you, Francesca. You have 2 minutes and I won't stop you.
Just before you start the clock, please, Mayor, I'm just handing out a letter, which is an update on a letter that was sent to all the councillors this week. I've distributed it to you because it updates, including another community group, as part of a statement that I'm making.
Okay.
Thank you.
When you're ready, thank you.
The City of Swan ratepayers own Midland Oval, and we are already paying for its destruction under the 2018 MORM. We require to be consulted, as it was unanimously promised by this council's motion on the 12th of May 2021. 3 actions from that 2021 motion remain outstanding. These were for council to 1, present an alternative strategy for the Midland Oval development. There is not one. 2, give the public a chance to be consulted about that strategy. the Mayor chose to run 3 internal confidential workshops that failed to reach an outcome and did not involve the public at any stage. 3, feedback to be given to councillors from the public consultation. Not possible, as the public have been excluded throughout. The public will not accept that the council's recent November decision, with only a majority of 1, can override the May 21 unanimous decision of council to review, improve and consult on the MORM. We consider that this council is dysfunctional. We will be going to the Minister and the Department of Local Government with our complaint and collaborate with all the other Swan community members and groups for the same. We will ask the Minister and the Director of Local Government what it means for this council to unanimously make a promise to the public and then, only by a majority of 1 of those same councillors, break that promise a year later. We expect they, as we the community, will see this as unacceptable. I also draw attention to the written combined statement from 6 City of Swan incorporated groups. I've given you an amendment because you now have Bellevue Resident and Ratepayers Association, Guildford Association, Midlands Society, South Guildford Community, Swan Valley Ratepayers and Residents, Woodbridge Ratepayers Association. In addition to the comments I've just made, it states, the combined statement,
Thank you.
we
That's
want
your
to
2
see a
minutes, Mr.
financially
Irwin.
responsible plan that does not involve
Thank you.
borrowing
That's your
tens
2
of
minutes,
millions
Mr.
of
Irwin.
dollars. This is your chance to bring back confidence to the City of Swan
Mr. Irwin,
and show that council is
please,
responsible
can you resume
and
your seat?
accountable. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That takes us to the next speaker, Mr. Kevin Bailey, on the same item. Thank you, Mr. Bailey. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I again speak on behalf of the Swan Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Mayor, I wish to reiterate that the Swan Chamber of Commerce has always supported the revitalisation of the Midland CBD. The new junction development brings together all the components of mixed-use commercial, residential apartments and public amenity to create a thriving and active town centre. And it's fair to say that we are disappointed and angry to see that yet again this is back in the chamber rather than councillors accepting the decision of council and moving forward. I remind council that Midland is a major strategic centre. A thriving and active CBD has flow-on effects to all of Midland, attracting further investment in both residential and commercial property, lifting property values and employment opportunities. Recent announcements from the state government for further expansion of medical facilities and a hotel on the Midland Workshop Precinct, the film studios at Whiteman Park, and the relocation of 900 government employees into the old Landgate building are further justification for the requirement of residential development in the CBD. The local business community has been frustrated for many years at the lack of progress on the new junction progress, and with $680 million of investment, a $2.2 billion contribution to the state economy and a $990 million contribution to the local economy and a projected 4,000 new jobs being put at risk by the antics of minority groups and petty local government politics. Business leaders in the chamber have regular discussions with potential investors who believe in Midland, and I personally have sat with these groups at a round table, and sadly the message is the same. We believe in Midland's potential, but why would we want to come to the City of Swan and Midland in particular when we can go to Joondalup, Wanneroo or Belmont and not have to deal with difficult councils? They will go elsewhere. Councillors, remind you, they're creating an environment where investors are confident and encouraged, be they building developers, business operators, large or small, or simply people.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. That's your 2 minutes.
I've got a paragraph to go, Mr. Mayor.
I'll need a resolution from council. You're moving that way, Councillor Howlett. You're seconding it, Councillor Budovnik. I'll ask, is there anyone against for one paragraph? You're against. You're by yourself, Councillor Bowman. Please be as quick as you can.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We urge you to accept the majority decision and redirect your efforts in making the new junction project and Midland a success story, and set aside the rescission motion to delay the next stage of development, and also the additional motion to overturn the approval of the creation and sale of Lot 811 Junction Parade. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And the last speaker make a public statement is Mr. John Gangel in relation to the same item. You have 2 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Gangel.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. I'm proud to have brought an apartment in the heart of the Midland City Centre. This allows me to live a fantastic lifestyle that no longer makes me reliant on a car or vehicle. is located next to shops, parks, cafe, pubs and restaurants, and is in walking distance to public transport, health facilities and employment prospects. Having great passion for the area, I've invested significantly in renovating my apartment, utilising an array of local businesses to make it a truly high-end apartment. And I'm sure those that have seen my apartment would agree how fantastic the look and feel is right in the heart of Midland. This highlights that well-designed apartments around public spaces benefit so many aspects, from council with increased rate base, businesses to more foot traffic, the environment, less vehicular movement and less reliance on the urban sprawl, and the residents for the fantastic lifestyle. Well-designed apartments with extensive benefits to self-contained living could include the possibility of pools, gyms, function areas and garden spaces for gatherings. I thank Councillor Bowman for taking the opportunity to speak with me and provide an overview of his suggestions. I love the idea of a green piazza. However, I am concerned that removing road networks could lead to further congestion around Midland, as is evident now that Robertson Road has closed to through traffic. Also concerning is the revocation motion for the proposed sale of Lot 811 Junction Parade. As stated previously, high-end investment is worth tens of millions of dollars, if not in excess of $100 million. On top of that, over $3 million for creation of a public park and ongoing maintenance for 5 years. There has been a lot of discussion in relation to financial management and the return of this project. How on earth does it make any financial sense to reject such a massive investment for Midland? In closing, I would like to see council have the same passion and belief I have for how truly great Midland is and that it's worth every dollar of investment. Thank you, good luck in your deliberations and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Mr. Gansel. You must have rehearsed that because you're 2 minutes and 1 second. Well done. Thank you. That brings us to the end of public statements, which takes us to item 7.
Mr. Mayor, I received an email confirming that my request for a public statement had been agreed to. I received an email confirming that.
Mrs. Christine Hughes. Mrs. Hughes, there's some confusion. Apparently there's another email sent to you, but please, if you're going to be 2 minutes, I've got no objection.
I think if I'm not going to be 2 minutes, you will bring me to my knees.
Well, unfortunately, some people don't listen when I try and stop them at 2 minutes, but hopefully you will. Thank you.
Ready, set, go. I'm standing to support Councillor Johnson's rescission motion, and it's expressly to ensure that Councillor Bowman's option 5 is thoroughly and openly canvassed and heard by us all. In a question I raised Bellevue Oval, that was equally framed around the huff and puff of enhanced recreation and reinvigorated community quality development. But I wanted to make the point, councillors, that 12 years on, we don't have it. Worse still, the developers came back 5 years later and said, look, it's difficult for us to deal with Mundaring as well as you. Would you mind redoing the boundaries so that we can skip over to Mundaring? We said, okay. They took the bore, the only bore we had over there. And as well as that, they took the 40-lot subdivision that was proposed for value of it, which would have generated $80,000 per annum in rates. I want to say to you, councillors, you don't have any control over what happens in the future. You have to make good decisions for this community and for yourselves, not the huff and puffery of what people speculate about, because you can't control it. Market forces, financial implications, it's out of your league. And I want to also just make the point that Councillor Bowman, in my view, is not aligned with those who have been promoting this project for many years, and he's not aligned with those who've been opposed to it either. He comes through the centre as a fresh voice. I want you to hear him out. We haven't heard what he has to say, but that unique position he has, and he's also, I think, demonstrated that he's been able to get around a number of the complex issues, has come through with a position that gives us a bit more green space and saves you a bit of money. And I want you just to recognise that fundamental element of democracy that says every elected member should be heard. Their constituents deserve that. So please support the rescission and hear what the man has to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That takes us to item 7, petitions. 7.1, a petition containing 8 signatures in regard to rezoning of residential redevelopment to residential development as similar residential areas in Hazelmere. Have you got that, Councillor Podovnik? Thank you. Well, perhaps, do you want to just read out the main basis of the petition and then?
Okay, this
I'll get
is a
staff to
petition
collect it.
from Hazelmere residents. I've actually got 18 names on the petition, and they're asking the City of Swan to support a proposed rezoning. So I'll just submit that.
Thank you. Item 7.2, a petition containing at least 22 signatures regarding Avery Creek in Aveley. Councillor McCulloch.
Thank you, Mayor Lucas. As electors of the City of Swan, we ask you to present this petition to Council so it can be considered and accepted as a matter of urgency. We, the electors, are concerned the condition of Avery Creek Park and its parklands are in very poor condition, and that the developer Stockland is trying to hand over the management to the City of Swan before they have rectified many problems. The petition is for the minimum amount of work required in the area to bring this up to the high standard as required, and as can be seen, there is a letter stating that the Avery Creek and Parklands will be kept to a high standard. That's just succinctly summarised, Mr Mayor, and I'll hand that to you.
Thank you. I can pass it to Ms Hodgkin behind you. Councillors, I need a resolution to forward those reports or petitions to the Chief Executive Officer for a future council meeting. Thank you. So moved, Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Catalano. And I take it that the recommendation is in the run sheet that the above petitions be referred to the Chief Executive Officer and a report be presented to a future council meeting. You happy with that, Councillor Johnson? As the second, Councillor Catalano? Is there anyone against? Being no one against, I declare that carried. I'll ask now, is there any member of the public or councillor wish to present a petition? There's a couple of gentlemen in the first row first. Please come forward. You have 2 minutes to make a statement to accompany the petition. If you can tell us what it's about. Oh, it's Mr Irwin there. Thank you. Yep,
the petition reads, petition of electors of the City of Swan, rethink Midland Oval, save millions of dollars. To the Mayor and councillors of the City of Swan, Council recently voted to revert to an old 2018 Midland Oval redevelopment master plan that may cost $200 million or more. Council chose not to look at an alternative, option 5, despite it offering savings of at least 25 million that could be used throughout the City of Swan. We, the undersigned, all being electors of the City of Swan, call upon Council to explore option 5 for an improved plan that will save ratepayers tens of millions of dollars, give better development and more public open space. In support of this, I think it's worth bearing in mind that generally councils are supposed to provide services and facilities which include parks and gardens, recreation space. Midland Oval is the only recreation space in the
Mr Irwin, I think you're straying from the petition. Have you finished reading out the purpose of the petition? If you could advise me roughly how many signatures you have on it, thank you.
I'm making a statement to accompany the petition.
Yeah, and I said you had 2 minutes and you've got 10 seconds left.
Thank you. As I was saying, the task of local government is to provide services and amenities. In this case, the MORM is an attempt to sell off those services and amenities to provide
Thank you, Mr Irwin. That's your 2 minutes.
It's the reverse of the normal pattern.
If you just advise me roughly how many signatures you have on your petition.
We've got 230 signatures here.
Thank you very much. Councillors, that'll have to be that'll have to form part of your deliberations tonight on the Midland Oval item when we get to it. I saw another hand go up for a petition. Mr Ashby.
I've got answers. I've read your response.
Is there anything arising out of Mr Ashby?
Well, first...
You have to come forward to the microphone so everyone can hear you.
The first question is not answered. Say it's written under the direction, who actually wrote the letter to the City of Swan and signed it the City of Swan?
I'll have to take that on notice, Mr Ashby.
Okay. I think the next one's
Yeah,
question.
it was the interim CEO, Mr Ashby.
The incoming CEO
No, the interim CEO, the acting
interim.
CEO
wrote the letter.
wrote the letter, yes.
Okay, and it was endorsed by you, but council don't consider.
No, I endorsed it to go into the paper along with the interim CEO.
You say, question 3, why are the CEO and council promoting a project shown by Treasury to be loss-making in 3 out of 4 scenarios considered? Do councillors appreciate this is a loss-making enterprise? And if so, what is the extent of forecast losses now? And have the ratepayers been informed? Because it is they who are paying.
Is that one of the questions that you asked, Mr?
Yes, question 3. Why are the CEO and council promoting a
Can
project
we go
shown
back
by...
to question 3, please? Kathy, you've got the answer.
The answer implies it's a strategic regional centre, so profit is not an issue. But were councillors aware of that?
Well, I think it's never been a profit-making agenda item, Mr Ashby. It's all about the revitalisation of the Midland precinct.
I'm asking whether councillors appreciate that and whether ratepayers appreciate that.
Well, that'll be determined later tonight when the item comes before council.
Okay. Now, question 5, your response to which of the 4 scenarios are the City of Swan implementing? You say you're implementing it in its entirety, but the 4 options, one of them is selling off most of the assets, which is completely different to the other 3. And that is the only one which normally makes a profit.
Well, if you heard me earlier on, I had a question asked by another member of the public, Mr Ashby. Those considerations are yet to be made by this council concerning an administration centre, a multi-storey car park and community facilities.
Yes, but option 3, I think it was selling off.
Whilst the current MORM has been adopted by council subject to the rescission motion. And that's what we'll be debating later tonight.
And will you inform ratepayers of the outcome of the review?
Well, we'll inform ratepayers of the outcome of the decision of council tonight.
Because I understand from your introducing the new member, welcome Mr Singh, that you stated you represent ratepayers.
Well, we represent all ratepayers.
Yes.
Not just part of them.
And how many are actually paying for it? I think that you must make it clear to ratepayers.
Well, all ratepayers will be paying.
Yes, how much they are paying for this enterprise.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Did I see another person who wants to? Thank you. We've got a very heavy agenda to the people in the public gallery, and every moment of delay will make us go longer, and most probably be longer here tomorrow night to finish this agenda. So I ask you just be respectful, not clap, applause, and like the end of last meeting, yell out at council. Was there anyone else in the public gallery of councillors to present a petition? Being no one, then we'll move on to item 8, which is deputations. And deputations for this agenda were heard at last week's agenda forum held on the 7th of December. Item 9, announcements by the presiding member. I'll hand over to the Deputy Mayor who has a presentation.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm pleased to announce the City of Swan has recently received an award from the University of Western Australia. UWA Work Integrated Learning Award was presented to the City for continually providing leadership to students from the university. The program enables students to get experience from the workforce while also increasing their outstanding experience in the workforce and understanding of the local government. The program also promotes the City of Swan as an employer of choice. Several students who completed the internships at the City have been successful in gaining permanent employment with us upon graduation. The university advised that the feedback from the students who have undertaken an internship at the City of Swan consistently indicate that they were making a profound impact on their professional development, and their placements at the City have been the highlight of their studies. Well done to all the staff who assisted with this program by providing mentoring to students and highlighting opportunities of a career in local government. And that is the framed award.
Thank you, Councillor Condon. Well done. Councillors, this was due to be the last meeting of the year. But firstly, I'd like to welcome Councillor Singh, newly elected Eltane Ward member, to his first official meeting. But because the holiday season will shortly be upon us, those who celebrate Christmas, I wish you a happy and safe Christmas. For those who don't, have a great holiday season, and we expect to see everyone back in 2023 happy, safe and prosperous. So on behalf of the council and councillors, we wish all our residents a happy and safe festive season. That takes us to item 10, members' questions, and 10.1, answers to which questions were taken on notice. I think you had 7 there, Councillor Bowman. You've seen the answers. Anything arising? Thank you. Councillor Johnson, I believe you had 5 questions. Anything arising out of them?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Knight, of the 9 questions you had, anything arising? Thank you. And 10.2, questions which due notice has not been given. You had 3 questions there. Councillor Johnson, anything arising?
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from councillors? Thank you. Councillor Bowman first, and then Councillor Congdon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 questions. Has the City of Swan received an application from Vines WA for a 2-storey driving range? And the second question is, will the application be considered by full council, not under delegated authority?
Mr. Russell, can you provide those answers?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The answer to the first question is not yet, but it may well be lodged before the end of the year. That's before Friday, the 23rd of December. I have met with proponents preparatory to lodging that application. The item will be presented absolutely to a council meeting, and that will be irrespective of whether the council is elected to determine the application, whether the proponent elects for the Metro Outer Joint Development Assessment Panel to determine it. Either way, it will be presented to council, and at this stage, I'm foreshadowing it probably wouldn't be to council before the April 2023 ordinary meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. No. Councillor Congdon, you had a question?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, my question is to Councillor Johnson, Catalano, Howlett, Richardson and Knight. Could any one of you please advise whether you paid for the advertisement that was in the Echo or somebody else paid for you?
Don't normally answer questions like this from councillors, Mr. Mayor, but I will do on this occasion. We paid for it. Nobody else was involved.
Thank you. My second question is, are you intending to put in a declaration of impartiality?
Well, if you think we need to do so, we can seek the CEO's advice as to whether that's necessary.
That's up to each and every council to decide for themselves whether they believe they've got an impartiality interest, councillors. So it's your determination.
Well, if Councillor Congdon is raising a doubt, which implies he's likely to raise a complaint, then right now, through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask the CEO, do we need to put in a declaration of interest?
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In accordance with the Act, the normal provisions regarding impartiality is it that an ordinary person of the public would consider the actions you have taken have somehow prejudiced or given rise to a form of opinion or decision you have already made on the item. Having taken out a full-page advert and expressed a position on an item which is before council, I think it would be open for an ordinary person to consider that you have already reached a position. And in my case, I would have declared an impartiality interest.
You want to have any further, Councillor Johnson, or Councillor Catalani, you have a question?
Yes, the question is that as one of the signatories to the revocation motion, isn't that enough of a indication of where I stand on it? I would have thought that I didn't need to declare it because, in fact, I supported the revocation motion.
That's fine. As I said, that's for each and every individual councillor to determine whether they believe they have an impartiality or not. It's your call. I can't, and the CEO can't make you fill one out. Thank
Okay,
you.
well, can I just then say then, I'm happy to fill out an impartiality, but I'd already signed the revocation motion as well. And
As I
there was
said,
no
that's
secret
your
about
decision,
that.
councillor.
Thank you.
Mr CEO?
Thank you. And just from the administration perspective, the initiation of an act under the Local Government Act and our standing orders to put something onto an agenda by way of signing a rescission motion does not state your feelings on an item. So it's not sufficient in itself to say I've signed something, therefore I'm stating which way I'm intending to vote.
Thank you. If there's no other questions from councillors, that takes us to item 11, leave of absence. Any councillor seeking leave of absence? Councillor Jones? Thank you. I've got a leave of absence request form from Councillor Paddy Jones from the 12th of January to the 31st of January inclusive. Are there any others, councillors? Then I need a motion. Move Councillor Henderson, second Councillor Zanino. Is there anyone against the approved leave of absence or to approve it? Being no one against, I declare that carried. Thank you. That takes us to the next item, councillors. That's item 12, confirmation of the minutes. And as yes, thank you. You're online and can hear us, Councillor Parry?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Do you declare that under the provisions of the new legislation under the Local Government Act that you're in a secure facility or building, that no one can overhear any confidential items we may have, and that your IT equipment is a security password?
Yes.
Thank you. That's so declared. So item 12 is confirmation of the minutes. I require a resolution to confirm the minutes of the 2nd of November. But please note that the answers from Councillor Bowman, unconfirmed questions published in section 10.2, will be removed from the minutes of the unconfirmed minutes, and they'll be published as part of these minutes. So move Councillor McCulloch, seconded Councillor Bowman. Is there anyone against? Being no one against, I declare item 12 carried. And have you got something there, Councillor? Thank you. Councillor Parry, I'd been advised earlier that you might be moving a motion after we dealt with item 12. Yes, please.
On the December 22 agenda. 3, suspension of clause of meeting procedures local law 2019 allow them to provide their discretion to length of speakers during debate as he considers
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Congdon. Is there anyone against? I traditionally do 3 minutes. Councillor Bowman, you're against, Councillor.
That's right.
Thank you. I'll just confer. Is there any provisions for debate? Thanks, Ms Hodgkin, or it's just put straight to the vote?
Straight to the vote.
So there's no provisions for debate. So I'll be putting it straight to the vote. So, councillors, what we're voting on is under the local meeting procedures, local law. Councillor Parry has moved a item, so I can limit the debate time to 3 minutes because of the heavy agenda load, and to take reasonable steps that we complete the business either tonight and tomorrow night. So those in favour, and as I said, I'm going to limit all councillors, being the mover, the seconder and the right of reply, and everyone else, to a time of 3 minutes.
Question, where is this in the meeting procedures, local law?
Thank you. Ms Hodgkin.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it's 11.1 subsection 2.
It does not say that there's to be no debate on it. So the presumption there is that there is.
It does say, but no other discussion is to take place. I'm not sure how else I would interpret it.
Thank you. So I'm going to put it to the vote. Those councillors in favour. I have Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Prodovnik, Councillor Singh, Councillor Congdon, myself, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson and Councillor McCulloch. The motion is passed. Thank you. I'm sorry, I forgot to look down at my screen. And Councillor Parry. Those against were Councillors Johnson, Councillor Howlett, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Knight and Councillor Richardson. The motion is passed, as I said. That takes us to the next item on the run sheet. Councillor Parry, you've got an alternative on the... So you'll have to speak up a little bit, Councillor Parry.
Question, Mr Mayor. How can this motion be on the agenda? Because when was it submitted?
I'll have to defer to the staff for that.
Motion on notice by a councillor should be submitted with 15 days notice. So was this received 15 days ago?
No. No. I think you'll find that councillors quite often come up with motions. I'll just defer to the CEO, or Ms Hodgkin, to answer your question. Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
Just to clarify, Mr Mayor, you're referring to the suspension of local law motion?
Yes.
Okay, so as a procedural motion, that motion can be moved during the course of the debate, as in also allowed for as other standard procedural motions in our standing orders.
But I think we need to know which part of the meeting procedure local law is suspending then. So it's either a councillor motion on notice, which needs 15 days, or it's a procedural motion of some sort. So it doesn't say here which it is.
Mr CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I refer to the first line of the references. A member may at any time move that the operation of one or more provisions of local law be suspended. At any time. That's during the course of the meeting. It does not prescript to a particular section of the meeting, under my understanding.
And it goes on to say that the member is to identify the clause or clauses to be suspended. So Councillor Parry's not done that.
I thought I saw something earlier. It's reasons.
In accordance with part 11 of the meeting procedures, clause 6.6, it's been suspended.
That's duration of speeches. This is about the changing of the order.
Mr Mayor, maybe Councillor Parry can tell us which part of the meeting procedures local law he wishes to suspend to do this. Yes, Mr Mayor, I think your next step is to rule it out of order.
I'm just reading the local procedures law. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Just give me a moment. So item 2.2 in the local meeting procedures law, order of business. The first three words, Councillor Johnson says, unless otherwise decided, the order of business at any council or committee meeting is in the order in which that business stands in the agenda of the meeting. Councillor Parry is moving a motion to change that order of business, and it's up to this council to decide.
Right, Mr Mayor, but the motion needs to state the item in the meeting procedures local law which Councillor Parry wishes to suspend. To be included in the motion, that's what it says in 11.1.
So, Councillor Parry, the order that the part of the business that you're looking to propose is under item 2.2, but you didn't include that into the motion. I did. So, is that your intention? I did see a reason on one of the sheets of paper I've got in front of me. I apologise, we've got so much paperwork here. Just give me a moment.
That's correct, Mr Mayor. And I also note that we also have done for the last 9 to 10 months since nature of our meetings, and I've had no feedback regards that.
So you're moving to suspend part 2.2 to allow that to happen, Councillor Parry, of the meeting procedures local law 2019. Is that your intent?
Yes, it is, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I'll ask if there's a seconder. Councillor Congdon. Councillor Bowman, you have a question?
The question, Mr Mayor. I think we're lacking a few words. Down this end of the table, we're having a bit of a problem trying to work out what was going on. Is it that we're resolving to change the order?
Yes.
And should that not be in the motion if that's what it is? So change the order. I'm not sure if we can suspend section 2.1. It's just as per section 2.1 because you don't suspend it. But mere point, Mr Mayor, as long as we're all aware that that's what we're doing, changing the order, happy.
Well, that's the intent of the motion. I had seen another version earlier on before the latest run sheet was printed off, which I thought had the reasons for it as well. It spoke about the heavy agenda item and that we'll proceed. And some of these items need a decision by tomorrow for financial reasons, and I apologise that they have not been included on the latest run sheet, and that's why I'm a little bit confused as well. I thought the earlier run sheet I saw earlier today had that information on it. So I'm just waiting for the correct wording to go up. That's in relation to the motion we've just had, Councillor Henderson. Thank you. So I apologise to councillors and members in the gallery, but
consider the remaining agenda of the business with the scheduled sequence below. Remaining part of the agenda. In accordance with the sequence below. That becomes part of. Yeah, that's just remaining. So having suspended the meeting procedure order of business, Mr Mayor, I agree with Councillor Farnham. We need to put in something that says the sequence you're actually going to consider.
Yes, thank you. So I'm not sure if you can see the whiteboard at home, Councillor Parry, but the motion now reads, moved by you, that council resolve to, in accordance with part 2 of the meeting procedures local law 2019, suspend clause 2.2 order of business for the duration of the ordinary council meeting of December 14, including any adjourned or reconvened meetings. 2, adopt those recommendations contained in the items not withdrawn. And 3, consider the remaining parts of the agenda in accordance with the sequence below. Is that your intention? Thank you. And Councillor Congdon is the seconder.
Amendment.
What's your amendment, Councillor Johnson?
Yeah, I'd like to move 3.1 bin our futures, which is about 3/4 of the way down the page, and bring it up to after 4.2. As 3.1 bin our futures appears to be time critical, and there are plenty of people in the public gallery with an interest in it.
Well, I'll ask if that's acceptable to the mover and the seconder. No issues, Councillor Parry? So bin our futures would come. So that's acceptable to both the mover and the seconder. So that becomes part of the substantive motion. That bin our futures, item 3.1, will follow directly after item 4.2. Is there anyone against? Being no one against, I declare that carried. Thank you. So, adoption of the recommendations contained, not withdrawn. So where's this page? Yep, we'll get to that. So we're now moving to the part of the agenda, councillors. I'm just finding the right page. Adoption of those recommendations contained in the items not withdrawn is on page 30 of your run sheet. So that was the next item in Councillor Parry's motion. Well, the motion I had was we just resolved to adopt those recommendations contained in the items not withdrawn. So we're on page 30 of the run sheet, Councillor. Sorry for the confusion. It's the adoption of those recommendations contained in the agenda that have not been withdrawn for the debate. Councillor Bowman, you have a question? Thank you. I'll just have to read aloud for the benefit of the people observing the meeting. For the benefit of members observing this meeting, either in person or online, the council uses an en bloc method of decision making. This means that agenda items where council supports the officer's recommendation are not debated separately. One vote is taken on all the items and the officer's recommendation is therefore the decision of council. And please note that the matters are being moved en bloc. So you're moving that, Councillor Bowman? Okay, I'm advised that 7.3 needs to come off the en bloc motion because that requires councillors to nominate for certain positions, and we've got no nominees for that. So item 7.3 will be removed from the en bloc schedule. So you're seconding it? No. What's your question, Councillor Johnson?
The item 7.1 that's on the run sheet for debate, I had discussions with staff about that during the week and was going to decide whether I'd bring up something or not. I haven't, so that can go into the en bloc. Should the council agree?
The reason that's there, Councillor Henderson, it's one of those ones where the mayor needs to read out the requirement under the legislation of the purpose and effect of that item. So it needs to stay. Thank you. I've got a mover in Councillor Bowman, a seconder in Councillor Congdon. Is there anyone against moving those items en bloc? Being no one against, I declare all those items carried. I've got to go back to my sheet. So the next item for consideration, councillors, will be item 6.2, Shady Hill Second Access Road.
On page 46 in the run sheet. Page 46.
That's you, Councillor Parry. Thank you. I need a seconder, councillors. Councillor Bowman, is there anyone against? Do you wish to debate it, Councillor Catalano? You do. Thank you, Councillor Parry. Over to you. You have 3 minutes. Thank you. Councillor Parry said he only needs a right of reply. Councillor Bowman is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I think the officer's report is fairly detailed, and I'll just wait to hear Councillor Catalano's debate.
Thank you. Councillor Catalano, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I've got to acknowledge that the residents of Shady Hills are in a very precarious position. It's a fire-prone area there. But the main problem with this is it's an extremely expensive road. It started off with a budget of 5 million. It's gone up to 7, and it's very likely to increase with increasing costs of road building and as time goes on. It's a very steep road, and I couldn't support it initially, and I'm not going to continue to support the increasing costs of it because those residents only number around 200, and it's an awful lot of money, and it's an increasing amount of money for so few residents and ratepayers. And you know what? At the end of the day, it won't solve the sustainability of their living in that particular precarious position, unfortunately. And what it means for other ratepayers, including people in Altone, is that they're going to have to go without. And the other thing about it is this money is going to be borrowed. We're asking the state government to contribute more money. What happens if they don't? We're going to pay for it. So this is going to be, by the time it's finished, an extremely expensive road. Ratepayers are going to be paying for it. Ratepayers who don't have any benefit from it whatsoever are going to be paying for it. Interest rates are rising. This is actually just not justified. It's not a fair use of ratepayers' funds. And for that reason, I have to maintain my opposition to this. And no doubt I will also be maintaining my opposition when it comes back, when there'll be another requirement for the council to approve even more money being borrowed, which as night follows day, I believe that's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a question, Councillor Bowman?
I do, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, through you to the CEO or to staff, can you advise, is this project on the 10-year plan?
Mr Coaten, thank you.
So, sorry, I see Mrs. Lay shaking her head, so I think that it's...
The question was this project item on the 10-year financial plan?
Through you, Mr Mayor, as part of budget deliberations for 22-23, Council was briefed that this wasn't included in our current budget and wasn't on the long-term financial plan until we had clarity that the subdivision would be approved and that a deed could be entered to with the land developers. Now that that's happened, we're formally bringing it in to make the adjustment to this budget, and we'll be updating the long-term plan.
Mr Mayor, maybe I should rephrase my question. We were aware that this was coming up.
Yes, the decision was made by this council back in December 16. Council resolved that the city pre-fund this road. It's been part of the structure plan for more than a decade. The applicant has finally been given approval by the WAPC, so that road needs to be constructed. This item is about pre-funding, and we have to pay the money tomorrow. I believe it's $100,000, so those works can commence. So it's not about whether we are or are not constructing the road. It's about the payment to the people constructing the road, and I support the road going in if it provides safety to those residents of Shady Hills. I suppose that is more of a debate, and I'll end it there. As I've spoken, I was starting to answer a question. Councillor Parry, you want to have your right of reply? You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I somewhat agree with Councillor Catalano in regards to being a large amount of money. However, fire comes everything. So if there is an ingress road from that area, I don't want those blood in my hands. So that's why I'm going to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to put the motion. It's item 6.2, the Shady Hill Second Access Road. Those in favour? Of Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Prodovnik, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Howlett, Councillor Singh, Councillor Congdon, myself, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Richardson, Councillor McCulloch and Councillor Parry. The motion is passed 13-2. The two against were Councillor Catalano and Councillor Knight. Thank you, councillors. That makes the next item on the agenda, item 4.4, State Administrative Tribunal request to reconsider refusal of illuminated signage 100 James Street, Guildford. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Once you start speaking, you have 3 minutes.
I'm having trouble finding it, Mr Mayor. So it's 4 point. There we go. Yep, got it. It is on page 38. My motion is that council resolve to approve that part of the application for the existing illuminated signage at lot 100, number 127 James Street, Guildford, that comprises the existing above awning rusty old boat sign. And 2, to record the reason for the motion is that there is a precedent for illuminated signage in this subject's place's era of development, as the building next door, which was the Regent Theatre in 1926, is known to have had an internally lit electric sign in 1949 and possibly as early as 1926.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Howlett. Is there anyone against? Do you wish to debate it? But you don't wish to debate it? Councillor Richards, do you wish to debate it? Thank you. You have 3 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. With the reorganising of the order, it takes a while to find this kind of thing. Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I've declared an impartiality interest in this item as I am a regular customer of the Rusty Old Boat Fish and Chip Shop. Councillors, what has changed since this last went to council? It's been to SAT, State Administrative Tribunal. SAT have sent it back to council for reconsideration, which means they think it's worthy of a rethink. We have new facts in the form of a historian's report handed out at the Agenda Forum by the owner. The report is by Prue Griffin of Hocking Heritage and Architecture. The report shows that the building next door to the Rusty Boat is a building that was once the Regent Theatre, erected in 1926. It used electric power that was installed in Guildford in 1910. The Regent Theatre is a contributory building under the Guildford Heritage Area Planning Policy because it is earlier than 1945. The report from Brew Hocking includes a photo taken in 1949 showing an internally illuminated sign above the Regent Hotel with the name Regent in lights. You can see it in the report. The report concludes that the sign must date from before 1949 and is likely from the early 1940s. Therefore, there is a precedent for internally lit, electrically lit signs in the contributory period on the building right next door to Rusty Old Boat. The Rusty Old Boat building is an Art Deco 1930 building. It is from the contributory period. It is adjacent to the old Regent Theatre, which had an internally lit electric sign during the contributory period prior to 1945. The Rusty Boat new sign is similar to the 1940s Regent sign. The Rusty Boat sign is sympathetic to the Art Deco building on which it is mounted. Quite a few people by email and on Facebook and telling me face to face have told me how sympathetic they think the sign is. So it is supported by many people in Guildford. In my opinion, the Rusty Old Boat sign is supported by the new Guildford Heritage Area Planning Policy, which says that pylon digital
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
neon or internally illuminated signage shall not be supported unless it can be demonstrated there is a precedent based on the subject place's contributory era of development, which has been demonstrated by a historian's report. So there is or was a precedent next door. In addition, the Rusty Old Boat electrically lit sign is opposite Alfred's, which has 2 neon signs. The Rusty Boat sign is definitely supported by the local community. The sign does not in any way impact residential amenity. We should support small business, so please support the Rusty Old Boat. Councillors, this sign is supported by the new Guildford Heritage Area Planning Policy. And the reason is the evidence from history and heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Howard is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, through the source material provided by the proponent at the Agenda Forum last week, I believe that the proponent has successfully demonstrated that illuminated signage occurred historically in Guildford. It is my opinion that the incandescent signage atop the building is complementary to the streetscape, well liked by the community, and does not in any way affect the amenity of residents. I think we should support local business. It is an iconic sign now in Guildford, and I think we would benefit by keeping it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson, you want to speak against the motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, you'll remember back in June 2022 when the proponent came to council, we listened to some fantastic debate and looked at the heritage and history of illumination in Guildford from 1900 up to 1949. We voted that night on the policy, which was that the illumination of the sign didn't meet the criteria in the policy, and we made that decision and it was passed. The applicant decided to take it to SAT, and here we are again debating this issue. I spoke to the proponent and his son after the meeting, and we had a very good conversation after, and I understand their plight, and I expressed to them the reasons why we have this policy, which is to retain a particular era of Guildford, which is that 1900 period, not the 1949 period. Now, we can throw around all the historic photos that we like, and we can argue that electricity was here, there, and left, right, and centre, but the policy and the Guildford Association have submitted a letter to say, can we please keep the lighting within a certain type, because we're trying to retain that particular period of Guildford, which is why it's so special that we have so many visitors come to visit Guildford. They walk in, they look at the brickwork, they study the different buildings. I ask them why they come to Guildford and spend so much time around Guildford. Now, I also looked at the Facebook posts this week. We've suddenly had an insurgence in Guildford of people who are in an uproar regarding why this fantastic looking sign. And I've said to the owners, it's a great sign, it looks fantastic.
But here at council, we have some policies in place to help protect the heritage area of Guildford and other areas such as Midland or any historic town. And the owners were quite open with me and expressed that they would be more than happy to take that sign down if it was a fair playing field. Their concerns were that it's not fair that Alfred's, Locale Mia, the massage shop, and other businesses were all, and the Thai restaurant were all using illuminated signs. And I said to them, we will do our best to make sure that if you take that sign down, that we will make sure that this policy is adhered to in this council chamber. Otherwise, those on social media stating, we love the sign, it looks great, it's fantastic, it suits the era, it's an Art Deco building. This isn't the argument we're having. The argument we're having here is that what's fair for one is fair for all, and there's a reason for that decision. Otherwise, their cries were, this is costing us at council. I can't believe you're bringing this to council. How much is this costing us in time and staff? And I can't believe we're arguing such a simple little thing. Well, if we pass it through tonight, then we'll be doing this every single time with every other business. And the whole point of the policy is that we're fair across the playing field. Otherwise,
Thank you, Councillor Richardson. That's your 3 minutes.
So just consider that in your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker for the motion. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Bowman first.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I agree with Councillor Richardson. I quite like the sign. What I like, what other people like, is totally irrelevant, councillors. Whether it's sympathetic or not, whether it stands out, whether it's blue, red, green or whatever, it doesn't matter. We have a policy, and the policy quite clearly says that that's not permitted. Mr Mayor, it's quite interesting that we sometimes seem to, as individuals, pick and choose when we want to apply the policy or not. If the policy is that wrong, let's change it. That's right. We just went through and did a major change. So, Mr Mayor, I really question how we can vote against something that doesn't match the policy, but then we vote for it when we choose to. It's not an opt-in or opt-out, Mr Mayor, in my opinion. The policy is black and white, and that's why I've foreshadowed the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Speaker for the motion. Speaker against the motion, Councillor Prodovnik.
Look, I'm saying that council needs to stick to its original decision to refuse this application for all of the reasons that are listed in the report to council. In June, council voted to not turn a blind eye to the fact that this business did not bother to find out about and comply with the Guildford Conservation Policy. And the owners are open about the fact they didn't look at the rules. So I would ask council to remain consistent and send a strong message of support to our Guildford Conservation Policy. The rules about signage don't change in the new draft policy, so our position shouldn't either. And I'm asking council to continue to support the officer's recommendation because it gets the balance right and it supports Guildford's conservation policy. I would ask council to consider the true cost, to consider what does it cost the City of Swan when we spend almost $95,000 on a conservation policy, send that policy out for public comment, create a policy based on that feedback, and then proceed to ignore our own policy. I put to you that it cost our credibility when we claim to value Guildford as a unique heritage town. It cost us our reputation when we are perceived as continually turning a blind eye to businesses who don't comply with the Guildford Conservation Policy. And when we reward those businesses by giving approval retrospectively to lighting that doesn't comply in the streetscape of a heritage town we profess to value, what does that say about our commitment to our unique heritage town? Tonight we have an opportunity to send the right message to our community. Please reject this motion in support of the officer's recommendation. Let's send the right message to our community tonight.
Thank you. Speaker for the motion. Any other speakers for or against, councillors? Being no other speakers, Councillor Johnston, you have 3 minutes for your right to reply. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, I've heard 3 councillors tell me that the sign does not comply with our Guildford Heritage Area Planning Policy, But of course, that policy was amended, and it's possible that councillors have not read the policy. So it's section M811.2.6. It says, as I said previously, internally illuminated signage shall not be supported unless it can be demonstrated there is a precedent based on the subject place's contributory area of development. And that exception is clearly satisfied in this case because of the presence of the Regent Hotel next door during the contributory period. So it's as simple as that. Our community do like the sign. It is sending a message that we are supporting our policy by supporting the sign because the policy allows the sign. What has changed since the June meeting? We've got a new policy. The policy has been amended to allow this kind of sign. We have a historian's report, which was not available at that time. SAT have said they like it. The sign is supported by our policy. The Department of Lands and Heritage sent a letter, which is included in the handout. And
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Supporting.
Sorry, Councillor Johnson. What's your point of order, Councillor?
Sorry, I've let it go twice now. Councillor Johnson said SAT likes it. I haven't seen anything that says that SAT likes it.
I think that is a fair point, Councillor Johnson. So if you just withdraw that remark and say SAT have referred it back for mediation.
SAT have referred it back for mediation, which indicates they think we should think again. So the proposal, the Department of Lands and Heritage says clearly the proposal will not impact the cultural heritage significance of the Guildford Historic Town. And then just one final thing, councillors, for something that, in my view, very clearly, and I've read the document, I've read the planning policy, I've got a copy of it just here. That's the one we're following. I've read it out twice. The sign does comply. It clearly complies. And so, councillors, in the interest of supporting the community, supporting the heritage of Guildford, supporting our planning policy, and supporting the community, and supporting the owner because of the additional cost of going back to SAT, councillors, please support my motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm now going to put the motion as moved by Councillor Johnson. Those in favour of Councillor Jones, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Howlett, Councillor Singh, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Congdon, myself, Councillor Knight, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, and Councillor McCulloch, which I believe is 12, and Councillor Parry. Those against is Councillor Bowman, Councillor Prodovnik, and Councillor Richardson, which is 3. The motion is passed 12-3. Thank you. Councillors, that takes us to the next item on the agenda, which is item 4.3. It's on page 37 of the run sheet, and I believe that's you, Councillor Catalano.
4.2 actually.
Well, 4.3 is first.
Oh, it comes before 4.2, does it? Okay.
In
Sorry.
the amended motion,
Yeah,
yes, it
okay.
does.
It doesn't seem logic, but that's okay. Fine. 4.3. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I'll start reading it out. Is that?
It's on page 37 of the run sheet.
Yeah. Do you mind putting it up? Because what is it? Page 47.
37.
37. Thank you. Okay, thank you. That Council resolved to 1, endorse the officer's recommendation to the Metro Outer Joint Development Assessment Panel to approve the development application subject to conditions, but with the following recommended modification to condition 11. 11. Prior to submission for a building permit, the applicant owner shall submit to the satisfaction of the City of Swan a modified landscape plan that 1. Provides for an area of 2,905 metres squared for landscaping purposes, this being 10.1% of the site area of 28,696 metres squared, and 2. Incorporates Corymbia calophylla trees as opposed to the Illawarra flame tree, Brachychiton acifolius, and Corymbia, and so that's incorporates Corymbia calophylla as opposed to Illawarra flame tree and Corymbia ficifolia as depicted in the submitted landscape plan. The approved landscape plan 3, the approved landscape plan must be implemented within the first available planting season after the initial occupation of the development and maintained thereafter to the satisfaction of the City of Swan. Where Corymbia calophylla trees fail to establish within the first 2 planting seasons following implementation, they must be replaced. Any other plantings must be replaced and in consultation with the City of Swan. 2. Record the reason for changing the staff recommendation is that 1. Marries or Corymbia calophylla are the large tree species endemic to the area or this area, which play a critical role in protecting and enhancing the biodiversity of this area through provision of food and shelter to endangered and non-endangered species of birds and reptiles. 2. Particular provision of this tree species more broadly through the landscaping area of the site can assist in provision of shade and in offsetting the rapid rate of loss of such vegetation caused by development and the adverse consequences this presents to the existing natural environment.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Knight. Is there anyone against? What's your amendment? Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Well, they won't know what it is until you move it.
Well, Mr Mayor, my amendment is after the word condition in the third line, delete everything else.
So could you just repeat that? I thought you said.
Yes, Mr Mayor, so I'm moving an amendment that after the word conditions in the third line, delete everything else after that. My understanding is amendment is you can add or subtract so long as you don't substantially change the motion. The motion is endorsing the officer's recommendation. I'm simply removing something.
I'm going to have to say, Councillor Bowman, in my opinion, that it's contrary to all the other points that Councillor Catalano has made, and I don't consider it to be valid. Thank you.
Mr Mayor, contrary is going to the opposite. I'm not going to the opposite with due respect. Councillor Catalano's motion is endorsing the officer's recommendation. My amendment is still endorsing the officer's recommendation.
But without any of those conditions. So as I said, Councillor Bowman, I rule your amendment out of order. I believe it's contrary to Councillor Catalano's motion, who specifically has asked for those items to be included in that motion.
I'll foreshadow the officer's recommendation then, same thing.
Thank you. So I've got a mover, I've got a seconder in Councillor Knight. You're going to speak against Councillor Bowman? Okay. Are there any councillors wishing to speak against the item? Otherwise, I'll put it. No one wishes to speak again. Those councillors in favour of the motion? I have Councillor Podovnik, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Howard, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Congdon, myself, Councillor Zanino, and Councillor McCulloch, and Councillor Parry, which is 9. The motion is passed. Those councillors against is Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Singh, Councillor Henderson, and Councillor Richardson. I might have miscounted. So there are 5 against, and there's 10 for. No, there's 5 against, and there's 10 for. Thank you. That takes us to the next item, councillors, which is item 4.2. It's on page 36 of the run sheet. And once again, Councillor Catalano, that's you.
Thank you. Very similar to the last motion. This is for proposed industrial warehouse and ancillary uses at lot 152, 153 Talbot Road, Hazelmere. That the council resolve to 1, endorse the officer's recommendation to the Metro Outer Joint Development Assessment Panel to approve the development application subject to conditions, but with the following recommended modification to condition 11. Prior to submission for a building permit, the applicant owner shall submit to the satisfaction of the City of Swan a modified landscape plan that, 1, provides for an area of 3,755 metres squared for landscaping purposes, this being 10% of the site area of 37,550 metres squared, and that should be 2. Oh, well, and it should really be 2, but incorporates Corymbia calophylla trees as opposed to the Magnolia teddy bear, Callistemon, and Corymbia ficifolia as depicted in the submitted landscape plan. And then 3, the approved landscape plan must be implemented within the first available planting season after the initial occupation of the development and maintained thereafter to the satisfaction of the City of Swan. Where Corymbia calophylla trees fail to establish within the first 2 planting seasons following implementation, they must be replaced. Any other plantings must be replaced in consultation with the City of Swan. 2, record the reason for changing the staff recommendation is that Maries or Corymbia calophylla are the large tree species endemic to this area, which play a critical role in protecting and enhancing the biodiversity of this area through provision of food and shelter to endangered and non-endangered species of birds and reptiles. 2, particular provision of this tree species through an expanded landscaping area for this development site can assist in offsetting the rapid rate of loss of such vegetation caused by development and the adverse consequences this presents to the existing natural environment.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Knight. Is there anyone against? Question, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, could staff tell me how close the teddy bears were going to be planted towards any structure?
Mr Russell, are you aware?
Bear with me, Mr Mayor. It doesn't appear, Mr Mayor, I'm afraid that the
Doesn't have that detail in the landscaping plan.
Mr Mayor, my second question is, what's the recommended distance to plant a Corymbia calophylla from any structure or building?
Mr Russell, are you able to assist us?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'm just looking at page 135. Perhaps if I can go back, the Magnolia teddy bear tree, the slightly red on page 135, appears to indicate that the Magnolia trees probably at least 5 metres from most of the building around the car park area. That's a very possible estimation, Mr Mayor, in relation to the first question. Perhaps for that second question, again, sorry, I was just comparing with Mr. Humphrey on this.
Thank you. Second question, please,
So,
Councillor.
Mr Mayor, what's the recommended distance to plant Corymbia from any structure or building?
Through you, Mr Mayor, my basic understanding of the nature of trees is that the root system of trees are largely reflecting the diameter to the crown. So I suppose, for example, if you had a crown of a married tree that was approximately 30 or 35 metres in diameter, the root structure would branch out below the soil around about the same. As a very rough guide, I would probably need to get more detail in terms of the planting setback guidelines in our landscaping policy, but that's a crude rule of thumb.
Mr Mayor, my next question is there any legal risk to the city in recommending or not recommending in requiring a certain type of tree to be planted near a building, and then that tree actually creates damage to the building because of the City of Swan's request?
Mr Russell.
Mr Mayor, I think this question's been put before in the chamber, and I think the response to that was whilst it wouldn't be 100% what someone might read in the nature of litigation, I think the probability of that would be low. I think the response was.
Any other questions? Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against? Then I'll put the motion. Those in favour. I have Councillor Prodovnik, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Howlett, Councillor Catalano, myself, Councillor Knight, Councillor Zanino and Councillor McCulloch. I'll make that 8. And Councillor Richardson, 9. For those against, if you can put your hands up, please. I have Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Singh, Councillor Congredon, Councillor Henderson and Councillor McCulloch, which is 6. The motion is passed 9-6. And, Councillor Parry, 8-7. The motion is passed 8-7. Thank you. Councillors, that takes us to the next item on the agenda, and that's item 3.1, Binar Futures. It's on page 35 of your run sheet, and over to you, Councillor Prodovnik.
Okay, so the motion is that council defer voting on this item until the February ordinary council meeting. And the reason, Koya and Pioneer are seeking to engage with Binar and the directors of these two well-established Aboriginal community-controlled organisations, so they want to support this initiative and help create a program that is culturally safe for Aboriginal kids. A deferral will provide an opportunity for Binar to work with these major stakeholders to develop a more organised program and structure. Pioneers has players from Midvale, Caversham, Ellenbrook, Balladura and Koya has worked with families in Midland for 18 years. This deferral will enable Binar to increase engagement, collaboration and participation with the community, which aligns with the City's Reconciliation Action Plan. A deferral until February council meeting will not stop Binar's ability to apply for a full multi-year service user agreement with the City of Swan Leisure Services in March 2023.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Order, Mr Mayor.
What's your point of order?
Mr Mayor, under the meeting procedure local law, 2 working days was required to be given. If not, you are required to make a ruling. Can I ask, have you made a ruling to accept this? Because I know the email was received at 11 o'clock today saying that the motion still was being worked on.
Thank you. I think Councillor Prodovnik raised this issue at last week's agenda forum, giving indication. I'm happy to accept the motion that's been included in our run sheet. So I really have no point of order. Thank you, Councillor Bowman. I'm calling for a seconder, councillors. Councillor Catalano, is there anyone against? You wish? Thank you. Do you wish to debate it? Councillor Johnson, you're against and wish to debate it. Thank you, Councillor Prodovnik. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, so we're being asked to endorse a basketball program at Swan Active and enter into an agreement to trial that program for 2 years. But 2 key Aboriginal community organisations who run basketball clubs in the City of Swan want an opportunity to consult before council makes a decision. So they want a consultation before we make a decision. For the record, Binar have consulted extensively, and that's to be commended. But Koya and Pioneers are asking for an opportunity to meet with Binar before council votes on this. Now, I'm not sure what the problem was, why Koya and Pioneers feel like they haven't been engaged with, but they say they haven't, and they are asking us to rectify this. The aim of a deferral is not to stop the program. It's simply to allow directors of 2 Aboriginal community-controlled organisations the opportunity to be involved in this early stage and contribute meaningfully before council ratifies a position. Now, it's not unusual for council to support a deferral so more consultation can happen. A short deferral is not going to make this program fall over. It's not that flimsy. A deferral means council will make a decision in February, and it's still possible for Binar to sign a multi-year service user agreement with the City of Swan Leisure Services by March 2023. It will be tight, but staff have confirmed it's possible, and it may spill over to a couple of weeks in April. The deferral simply seeks a short period of time for 2 Aboriginal community-controlled organisations to work with Binar on this before council ratifies a position. These organisations want to be involved, and I'm asking council to support their request to be engaged with.
Thank you. Councillor Catalano is the seconder.
The thing about this is that I've actually spoken to a soccer club that feels that was moved around from its original grounds. And was
Point of
probably-
order, Mr Mayor, relevance, I think.
Yeah, the
talking about
relevance, I'm
basketball.
getting to the relevance.
Thank you. Can I make a ruling first? Can, if you're mentioning a soccer club, which seems to be a bit remote, Councillor Catalano, can you join the dots as quickly as
Yes,
possible?
okay, I'll
please?
join the dots. The point is that we need to make sure that this proposal by Binar is actually has everybody included in it, because I have come across and there are still clubs out there that are they're basically hurting because they feel as though they've started up clubs and associations and been treated poorly, been shifted from pillar to post to make way for bright, new, shiny project, clubs in sort of different associations and with different objectives. I mean, the more grassroots clubs, the ones that started off with volunteers, the women, they were the mainstay of our sporting clubs back in the day, and I would hate to see that the use of the basketball courts down in Midland, the Swan Active there in Midland, in any way did not include people and players who are already using the space, or who even actually feel so aggrieved that they don't want to use
You have 1 minute left, thank
basketball
you.
courts there because they feel that they weren't properly included in this process. So the reason why I raised the soccer club was because we've already got associations out there who are hurting and who are upset enough to tell me that they don't feel as though they're being treated properly. And I don't think I want to see that repeated again. And I certainly don't want to hear from any more unhappy associations. So I think we need to just basically go carefully. What's the rush? And we just need to make sure that everybody is okay with what's going on, because we're talking about a very drastic change down at the basketball courts there. And everyone's got to be included, and everyone who says they're not included now has to be included. It's not just good enough to say that everyone is included. If there are people who are saying that they haven't been properly consulted.
Thank you,
They have to
Councillor
be.
Catalano. That's your 3 minutes. Speaker against the motion, Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, you may recall at the Gender Forum, I asked, I think it was Adam, what the impact would be for a deferral. He quite clearly gave us the answer to that. Mr Mayor, drastic changes I just heard. I'm not sure what the drastic changes are. Basketball on the basketball court. It's not soccer on the basketball court. It's not footy on the soccer ball court. Mr Mayor, I read a very, very well put together business plan. I wish more community groups and more groups that wanted to run associations had the talent to give me a business plan like that. I asked one question in that business plan. It was well answered. Binar should be congratulated, Mr Mayor, in my opinion, for what they've been doing. Mr Mayor, when I look at a proposal, I look at the outcomes. Mr Mayor, this is actually going to be a reduction in expenditure, only slightly, to the city. But Mr Mayor, the great outcome here is there's going to be more kids playing sport. There's going to be more kids playing basketball, because we're only talking about basketball here. Isn't that a fantastic outcome? Mr Mayor, we're building new facilities, renovating new facilities. Let's get them used. Mr Mayor, I would have thought a local government would be quite happy to hand it over to someone else. I'd love to see this succeed and succeed even better than the business plan. I have no problem. We've been told about inclusive. We got answered very well on that. Mr Mayor, it seems like there's two groups that have internal issues. that shouldn't be a City of Swan issue.
Thank you. Speaker for the deferral. Any other speakers for or against? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak on this one. I wasn't going to speak on it, and after the agenda for I was fairly clear what I was going to do, but I'll explain why I've changed my mind. First of all, I do want to acknowledge our traditional owners, Professor Cheryl Kickett-Tucker of Coya, who I know has a very extensive involvement in basketball, and also Donna Nelson, who I've not met before, acknowledge her involvement in Pioneers and recognise that they do have a stake in this. They do have a stake in basketball and children playing basketball, and obviously in Aboriginal children playing basketball and becoming engaged with the wider community. That's important. And this is new information that I got tonight. Well, it wasn't all new. At the agenda forum, a question was asked, if this is deferred, will it make any difference? And what I thought I heard at the time was, well, no, it won't. I thought in that case, it's fairly straightforward. We can defer it, but didn't really know why. But then on Thursday, after the agenda forum, I got a phone call. A gentleman called Robert Gardner, who occasionally calls me to ask for the URL of my newsletter that I send out every month, called me up and then changed the subject to Binar, which quite surprised me. It turned out he had a bit of involvement in Binar, and he put me right in my understanding. What he told me was, it is time critical. You need to talk to Adam Desmond. So he arranged for me to talk to Adam Desmond. Half an hour later, what was explained was this. Although it appeared that deferring this until February, well, that's fair enough. He said what is needed is time to get this organisation engaged with the children in the area, the students who are going to become basketballers in Binar. They need to build a cohort that is ready for the start of the school year. And you say, well, it should still be possible, but it's not. What's needed is a bit of run up to it, an organisational leading. And I said, is it possible to manage without that? No, he said, we're absolutely clear. We've got a lot of people involved in this. We need to build the group. We need to do the organisation. We need the time. We need to do it now. So that's where I got to. Now, it's my view, firstly, that what I've heard is that Binar are not going to get an exclusive use of the courts. And of course, the courts are not going to be ready at the beginning of the school year. But what Binar want is to build a group of basketball players.
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
Thank you. And get the Binar Activity Basketball League going in another location, and then move it up and running directly into Swan Active Midland. So I thought that sounded to me like quite a good plan. Now, what we've heard tonight is that there are other groups who have a perfectly valid interest, and I do acknowledge these are valid interests. But the question I've got is this. Is it possible to have the consultation after we go ahead? If this is something that is about who's involved, have we got the right groups, is something that perhaps I don't understand. But I think it can, the consultation can be done between Coya, Pioneer and Binar after we're going ahead. So that's my reason why I'm opposed to the deferral. I think that Binar have got a good reason to go ahead, and I'd encourage Binar to talk to Professor Cheryl Kickett-Tucker of Coya and Donna Nelson of Pioneers and any other groups. So I think it's basically project management. We can give the go ahead, and we can do the consultation concurrently.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. That's your 3 minutes. Any other speakers for or against the motion, councillors? Being no other speakers, then I'll enter the debate. I'll ask you to take the chair. Thank you. Before I hand back to the right to reply. Councillors, to me, we quite often get items to be deferred. We had one only a meeting or so ago about the Whiteman Lap. We didn't feel there'd been enough community consultation. We deferred that item so we could conduct more. So I'm supporting the motion by Councillor Brodovnik to defer the item till the February ordinary council meeting. Not much will occur over the Christmas New Year period. I know that Andrew Vlahoff and Mr Desmond and everyone behind Binar want to get on with it, but realistically, if the Swan Active Beach Bar is not going to be available till at least this time next year or early in 2024, I'm sure that any consultation conducted with Coya or Pioneer can happen over that Christmas New Year period. The item will come back at the next council meeting and we can consider it. And I took notice of the very impassioned plea for the deferral, and that's why I'm supporting the item to defer it. That's all I have to say. Thank you, and I'll hand back to you, Councillor Podovnik, for your 3 minutes right of reply.
Thank you. Now, I'm not sure why consultation hasn't happened, but I'm asking council to support a short deferral so consultation can happen. And I'd just like to draw council's attention really to the officer's comment, which is on the board. And it says that BINA have indicated a preference to a decision being made at this council meeting. And that comment supports my research that it's not time critical. We don't have to make a decision tonight to support this. There is time, and even the officer's comment recommends that and recognises that. And also it says, City can assist if any relevant parties wish. So again, that does reiterate the fact that it's not so desperate that it can't wait. This proposal is not so flimsy, it's not going to fall over if we defer it, so that better consultation and more consultation can be done with people who are actually asking us for consultation. And that's really why I'm asking for a short deferral. So those who are asking to be consulted with actually can be consulted with. It's not about how good the program is. I'm actually of the view of supporting the program. I think it sounds fantastic. I think most councillors here, I would assume, will be supporting this. So it's not about supporting a great program. It's about allowing consultation with people who are asking us, the City of Swan, to be engaged with. So please support this motion.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion. Those councillors in favour. I have Councillor Podovnik, Councillor Singh, Councillor Catalano, myself and Councillor Richardson, which is 5. The motion is lost. Councillor Bowman, you foreshadowed the officer's recommendation. I need a seconder. Councillor Knight, is there anyone against? Do you wish to debate it, Councillor Catalano? Thank you. Does anyone wish to debate it? Then I'll put that motion. Those in favour of the officer's recommendation, I have Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Podovnik, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Howlett, Councillor Congdon, Councillor Knight, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Richardson, Councillor McCulloch and Councillor Parry. And those against, the motion is passed. Those against was myself, Councillor Catalano. So it must have been passed 13-2. And Councillor Singh. So 3 against, 12 for. The motion is passed. Councillors, it's just after 8 o'clock. As is custom, we're going to break for 10 minutes and we'll come back at 8:15 to continue. The next item will be the revocation motion, item C 1.2 from Councillor Johnson. So we've got a 10-minute break. Thank you, councillors. So the 3 against Councillor Singh, Catalano and myself on the last one, Kathy.
Right. See what's in it. Yeah. But it is, I mean, it's a matter.
Yeah, we just kind of practice.
Thank you, councillors. We're going to start off. The next item to be discussed and debated is item C 1.2, Councillor Johnson, revocation motion, Midland Oval redevelopment. The items listed in the agenda, councillors, on page 604. If there's no objection, I'll take it that everyone's read the item. I'll just ask Councillor Johnson to put his reasons in, and then we can just start. We'll see if we get us a second and start debate. Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, as advised, I'm going to assume that we're going to take the motion that I'm revoking. Councillor McCullough's motion, or our resolution from the last meeting, is taken as read. I'll just sort of read the top part out. So, Part A, revocation motion. I gave notice. Councillor Johnson gave notice of a motion to revoke the decision of council made at November 2nd, 2022 ordinary meeting of council on C 1.7 Midland Oval development. Taking that as read. If everyone's happy with that, nobody wants me to read it out. No. The reason for the notice of motion to revoke is: 1. The council has not concluded the series of workshops that examined options for balancing more community open space with commercial return, with a final workshop to present the results of the options analysis. 2. The motion acknowledges the previous resolution to retain heritage buildings but does not protect them. 3. The percent of people who supported the Midland Oval redevelopment master plan MORM in the business plan survey was not 65%, but was only 9% of those who were sent a survey. 4. The financial analysis undertaken by staff of option 5 was incorrect, and the correct analysis was provided after consideration of the other options by a number of councillors had been submitted. Councillors were also provided with no opportunity to further digest and discuss option 5. 5. It was expected that the CEO would have placed a report on the agenda about the outcome of the workshops, together with a recommendation to council. 6. A notice of motion by council should not be considered whereby it attempts to change a council agreed process before that process is concluded. 7. The Midland community wishes to retain as much as is possible of the area within the outer perimeter of the Midland Oval Velodrome, simple park with trees. An option to satisfy this expectation should be debated by council. That's my revocation motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Howlett. Is there anyone against? There is. You wish to debate it? Thank you. Councillor Johnson, you have 3 minutes to open your debate.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, councillors, just to make it clear, because there's some interesting misinformation out there, this motion of mine, this revocation motion, does not revoke the MORM. Absolutely does not do that. So, councillors, how did we get here? So back on 2nd of February, council resolved unanimously, that means every single councillor, to request the CEO organise a briefing or workshop in March specifically to discuss the MORM, the Midland Activity Structure Plan, and assessment of the objectives of the overall project, and to include on the agenda the potential to create a 4-hectare central park as recreation reserve, inclusive of the area bounded by the historic cycle track, the existing road across the Oval, Weir Park, the existing playground, and the privately owned land abutting Midland Morrison Road. Councillors, we attended 3 workshops. We looked at the objectives, proposed alternative options, and then we assessed the options, scored the options according to the criteria that were developed. The next step we expected was to hold a final workshop at which the ranked options could be reviewed and discussed. There were some interesting options to increase the public open space and reduce the costs as a benefit to our ratepayers. We expected this would be followed in the usual way with a report to council in the agenda with a recommendation, but this did not happen. Instead, on 26th of October, councillors got an email from the mayor saying, councillors, thank you to those who submitted their assessments of the 6 options as agreed through the council workshops. The assessments have now been analysed with a summary provided from Mr. O'Neill. It confirms that 2 schools of thought still exist, etc., etc. From the results, it's evidence that common ground will not be found. The only option left is for council to vote on a preferred option, and once chosen, a new strategy and action to be developed to achieve the revitalisation of the area, which supports the usual concept we have of the staff producing a report of the outcome of what we're working on with a recommendation. That's what we expected. A vote on the matter will require a resolution by council, is what the mayor said. So, councillors, why did that not happen? As I said before, the expectation was that a report would be prepared for the December meeting, this very meeting. We waited patiently, unexpectedly. In the 2nd of November agenda, there was a motion on notice by Councillor McCullough to discontinue the productive and business-like workshop process and throw the partial result away and go back to the 2018 MORM, which on the 2nd of February, Council unanimously decided needed to be reassessed. Councillor McCullough's motion on notice would have to have been submitted before the 11th of October, well before the letter from the Mayor on the 26th of October. A Midland workshop was held on the 21st of September. Unknown to anyone at the time, this was the last one. It appears that Councillor McCullough did not want to wait for the outcome of the workshop, but a few days later submitted her motion to cut short the process. I would have expected the CEO to advise Councillor McCullough that a city report was being prepared and a motion was not needed. Councillor's due process has not been followed and it should have been. My motion to revoke Councillor McCullough's motion is essential to get back to the unanimous decision of Council on 2nd of February. Council, the reason for revoking the previous decision, we're not revoking them all, just the previous decision.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. That's your 3 minutes.
I've got a bit more to go, Mr. Mayor. It's about 2 paragraphs. So if you don't mind, it's one of the most important decisions we're making.
Well, if I allow it for you, I'm going to allow it for every other councillor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
The expectation was the council workshops to review the Midland Oval options would conclude with a final workshop to review the options with the costs and rankings. That council would be able to consider a new option 5 proposed by Councillor Bowman, which retained more land for public open space and saved around 25 million. Councillors, for the purpose of the workshops and the expected report, was to present options to get a balance between public open space, development opportunity and cost to the ratepayer. Councillors, the people of Midland want more public open space. Every ratepayer wants to continue our 3-year unique record of no rate rises, so an option with a $25 million saving will help with that. Nothing is stopping the developers who control land from going ahead. We've been waiting for years for these landowners to get on with it. I've always said, councillors, I've said this for 7 years, the 2 sides are not so far apart. Let's finish the job and get a Midland Oval master plan that is unanimously approved by this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Howell is the seconder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Essentially, we can't continue on in a business as normal state of mind. We need to finish the workshops to get an alternative strategy out to the public. One of the points that was raised or spoken to us as councillors during the workshops was that it was very important that we reached a majority compromise on an alternative MORM option, and that an 8-7 scenario just would not be considered successful. We're there again. We're still at the 8-7. So we really had not explored the options fully. The workshops were terminated prematurely and not a decision made of council. This revocation motion is about returning us back to that place where we were all in a room together working on different options. On the last meeting of the September the 21st, Councillor Bowman spoke about his option that really had only just lightly touched the surface and hadn't been given the costings by staff, if my memory serves me correctly. So it was expected that we would perhaps have more time to look at that option, because it really did seem to be a compromise that perhaps we could all settle on and agree with. It is important that we we find a majority support with this, with councillors, with the community, with business, and that we finish the workshops to get the alternative strategy out to the public, and we can go forward with a MORM that has the majority support. That can't happen unless we return back to the workshops. I urge you to support the revocation motion for no other reason other than finishing off the business that we were there to do. I know that not all councillors attended every workshop, and you might not have heard that directive for those that didn't attend. But I know that I attend every workshop with a genuine desire to find an outcome that was acceptable to a majority. And I believe that we were tracking that way. However, it wasn't until the 26th of October, after receiving an email from the Mayor stating that the workshops had been cancelled. Curiously, Councillor McCulloch's notice of motion was received on the 13th of October, which preceded that notification. So there was no opportunity for any other councillor to put forward a notice of motion with an alternative option in that timeline. So yes, I urge you to support the revocation. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against the motion. Councillor Congdon, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Where do you start, Mr. Mayor? The commentary of we need a majority, there was a majority vote. Majority to me, it doesn't really matter if it's 7-6 or 9-8 or 10-9. It's a majority regardless. Many things in life have got slim majorities. Nevertheless, they are a majority. Of all the emails that I received, and there have been lots of them in support and lots of them not in support, but an awful lot talking to me about Altone and the lack of streetscaping, the untidiness of parks, the lack of amenity. Well, I'm really surprised that I'm getting emails in respect to that when they've got information that says your rates are going to go up by almost $2,200 thanks to Councillor Knight in a social posting, or we're going to spend 200 million or 70 million, but we don't really know what it is. So I can understand why the scaremongering has appeared. But what is concerning for me is that this council, in its budgetary responses, have always gone ahead and listed things in the budget for their community. In Ballajura, we put $200,000 aside for streetscaping. So when I get this exercise, we're going to spend all this money on the MORM and we're not going to spend any more money in our suburbs is not correct. As a matter of fact, I could rattle off a list of the amount of money that's been spent in Altone for those who are listening that say we haven't spent any money. 330,000 on a dog park is the first one that comes to mind. But let's talk about.
What's your point of order, Councillor Johnson?
The motion, the revocation motion doesn't talk about dog parks or Altone.
Talks about.
I think Councillor Johnson is trying to make the point that we've all received emails along a similar vein, and he's discussing those emails that were received, which did mention particularly the Altone ward, dog parks, street verges, and footpaths, and a whole lot of other things. So I really have no point of order. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Please continue, Councillor Congdon. You just have just over a minute left.
Thank you very much indeed. Look, I would remind councillors that when we had the workshops and all the options were put forward, only 10 councillors completed the forms, supplied the assessment. Only 10 councillors out of 14 did that. Councillor Bowman's option 5, that he talks about the $25 million saving, was one of the options, and it scored the lowest. So how is this wonderful option of saving 25 million score the lowest? The highest score was the original MORM of 39. 39. So I don't understand where all the rhetoric is coming from everywhere about Councillor Bowman's motion, save 25 million, let's all support Councillor Bowman. Obviously, people haven't been advised that the option 5 was the lowest scoring. So those councillors in this room, did not press the button on option 5. They pressed the option 1 or the option 2, Option 3, A, B and 4 all scored the lowest.
Thank you, councillor Congdon. That's your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Speaker for the motion. Councillor Catalano, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
3 minutes. I thought we were having more.
A little bit more.
Thank you. Good. Well,
Well, you decided to stop.
Yeah, because you've got no more left.
Well, I said you had 3 minutes. You didn't push the point.
No, what's fair to all is fair to all.
Thank you, councillor Catalano.
okay, thank you. There's been a lot of submissions, at least 30, in support of this revocation motion. And all of those submissions and all of the rhetoric, apparent rhetoric out there, I haven't heard anyone say that they don't want development, that they don't want to get it done, that they don't want investment in Midland. But they do want, ratepayers want a better design and a cost-effective plan. Now, it's pretty evident that a lot of ratepayers from their submissions didn't know that this project was going to run at a loss. And maybe that's the point.
What's your point of order, please, councillor McCulloch?
Sorry, that is a generalisation, and based on financials, I can't accept that.
Thank you. Perhaps councillor Catalano will take the point of order, unless you've got evidence to the contrary that it's running at a financial loss.
Well, it's not going to be run for a profit, is what was actually said to a member of the public tonight. So what does that tell you? If it's not going to be run for a profit, it's probably going to be run for a loss. So that might be where the scaremongering is coming from, because ratepayers are worried. They are worried. And I just want to read out some of what the ratepayers have said. Ratepayers want to see more financially viable plan that provides a better balance between development and public open space, as they will continue to pay for the project through their rates. And, it is so much of it. Once the cost of finance is inputted into the financial model, then it'll grow even more negative, and the red lights will be flashing even brighter. With the official rate, and that's the interest rate, I gather, obviously over 100% higher than what it was in 2018, and borrowing rates even higher. Then the financial burden of the MORM would place the City of Swan balance sheet, and by extension the City of Swan ratepayers, into even more concerning territory. I mean, people out there are really worried about their rates going up. So it's not scaremongering. It's because, do you know what? The problem is that ratepayers don't know actually how much it's going to cost them. And, even we on council don't know how much it's going to cost them. So it's no good pointing fingers at councillors who say, well, it could cost this or it could cost that, because the facts are that nobody in this room knows how much it's going to cost, but we can only go by the business plan, and the figure on there is that it's estimated to cost 200 million. So I just wanted to quickly talk about the so-called 65% of people who wanted it. That was out of 65,000 ratepayers in the City of Swan, only 8,000 responses, and out of that, only 5,400 people said they agreed with it. So that means 85% of people in the City of Swan did not respond to that survey. So that is not a conclusive 65% of people wanting it, when 85% of people didn't even respond. So they didn't understand it. Just like even right now, I don't even know how much this is going to cost. I can't tell any ratepayers how much it's going to cost. I can just point to the business plan and go 200 million, and then and there'll be borrowings, and then. Just finally, with the 12th of May decision.
Thank you, councillor Catalano. That's your 3 minutes.
Actually, I'd like to just move on a bit further. Thank you.
How much longer have you got to
About 1 minute. 1 minute. Thanks.
I'll give you 45 seconds.
So I just wanted to get back to the unanimous decision of council on the 12th of May 2021. There were actually 3 outstanding actions that came out from that motion, which was that there was going to be an alternative strategy. This is what council decided unanimously, an alternative strategy. That alternative strategy was going to be put out to public consultation, and the feedback was going to be given to council. Now, that just did not happen. Now, what does that say? We've promised the public consultation on the MORM. We might be able to give them some certainty. We might be able to give them some numbers. We might be able to give them some figures. But actually, that's all gone back under the carpet because quickly, on the 4th of November, we've got a decision of council now with a majority of 1.
Thank you, Councillor Catalano. That's your time.
I just want to say
Thank you,
that
Councillor
ratepayers
Catalano.
want more than the MORM dinosaur.
Speaker against the motion. Councillor McCulloch, thank you. You have 3 minutes, plus a bit more.
And a little bit more because Councillor Conkerton didn't have a little bit more.
Thank you. Please
Thank you, Mr.
continue.
Mayor. Mayor Lucas, there's no reason to delay this development. It's complete, it's comprehensive, and we need to get on with it for the benefit of our residents, ratepayers, for our businesses, and the greater social, economic, environmental, and sustainable future benefit for the City of Swan. This revocation will arrest the master plan that we have before us as a democratic and orderly decision of council. We would be looking at years and possibly millions in a completely new master plan. We can talk about profit or loss, but the vision around this development was for community benefit. I will address in my debate and provide clarity and fact pertaining to the reasons Councillor Johnson has provided for this revocation. Number 1, the council had not concluded the series of workshops that examined options, etc., etc. We had a council resolution of the 2nd of the 2nd, 22. It was resolved unanimously to request the CEO organise a briefing or workshop in March to discuss the Midland Oval Redevelopment Master Plan and the Midland Activity Centre Structure Plan and an assessment of the objectives of the overall project. Also to include on the agenda the potential to create a 4-hectare Central Park, and it talks a little bit more about some other stuff. But all elements of this resolution had been met. Expectations versus a specific decision of council. And I hear councillors talking about the expectations. No, this was a specific decision of council. The resolution was to consider the potential to create a 4-hectare Central Park. The purpose of the workshop, singular, was not to examine options. The resolution was for a workshop, the Midland Activity Centre Structure Plan and the objectives, and consider the 4-hectare Central Park. Reason 2 was that the motion acknowledges the previous resolution to retain heritage buildings but does not protect them. Well, the resolution of the 2nd of November 2022 remained unchanged and that stands firm. Reason 3, the percent of people who supported the Midland Oval redevelopment in the business plan survey was not 65, it was only 9%. Well, with that, Mr. Mayor, the number of responses to the Mort Business Plan survey was 8,385, a 12.9%
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
response rate. The response rate is significant and exceeds responses to similar surveys undertaken by the city. Of the 12.9% response rate, 9% were in support. This is a high response rate and shows support across the entire city. Reason 4, the financial analysis undertaken by option 5 was incorrect and the correct analysis was provided after consideration. I double checked lots of different things as to when that was submitted and when councillors then submitted things. And after the site tour and the multiple workshops, there was Councillor Bowman identified an issue at the workshop on the 21st of September with the rate revenue, which was rectified, and the option was redistributed clearly for councillors to look at. Reason 5, it was expected the CEO would have placed a report on the agenda about the outcome of the workshops.
Thank you, Councillor McCulloch. That's your 3 minutes. How much longer have you got to go?
Maybe a minute, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. You have 1 minute.
So, together with a recommendation, be returned to council with recommendations. Reason 6, a notice of motion by a councillor shouldn't be considered whereby it attempts to change a council agreed process. The resolution of the 2nd of the 2nd 22 elements had been met. Councillors can submit notices of motions at any point. The notice of motion was not contrary to that resolution. Reason 7, the Midland community wishes to retain as much of the oval, much as is possible of the area within the outer perimeter of the velodrome. 68% of the Midland survey responses showed support for the 2018 redevelopment plan, even before at least 3 amendments to increase that public open space to the 2.7 hectares we have today. So, Mr. Mayor,
We're growing rapidly. Our population's expected to double in less than 20 years. We've got a responsibility to meet state government's requirements for urban infill, and this is a critical development in meeting our state-led urban infill targets. It's also a vital next step in ensuring we build Midland as a vibrant, strong and exciting precinct for future generations. Councillors, I encourage you not to support this revocation. Let's be future focused and have that greater vision for the City of Swan,
Thank you,
our
Councillor
residents and
McCullough.
ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker for the motion, Councillor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very disappointed that we're back in this position. I'd hoped that we would have gone through and finished the workshops and get the outcome that we so desperately need with this. One of the CEOs, I forget if it was Cliff or Jeremy, said that we need, sorry, I didn't mean to make a joke or anything, but we need 11 councillors to support this for business investors going forward. And we've only got 8. We do need to go back to the workshops for option 5, but that seems to be the problem because option 5 has not come from the Johnson 5, if I should say, put it like that. It's come from Councillor Bowman, and Councillor Bowman, we know, does the homework and he does the study, and anything that Councillor Bowman puts up, I think, is we take seriously. Councillor Congland speaks of the low score.
What's your point of order, please?
Point of order is that if Councillor Bowman puts it up, we take it seriously, and if any other councillor puts it up, we don't take it seriously? Is that the intention
No,
of
I'm
your
just
comment?
making the point that he does the study, that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Perhaps I understand where Councillor Congdon's coming from. I don't accept the point of order, but please don't put other councillors above others in relation to their knowledge, their commitment, etc.
All right, I'll take
Sorry,
that back.
Councillor McCullough. Sorry, Councillor Knight.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I'm just wondering, Councillor Richardson, do you have an emergency? I'm just distracted by the constant use.
I'm sorry, your voice was quite
Thank
loud
you.
the whole time, so if you could
I'm
just speak a bit softer, that would be great.
Sorry,
Although
Mr
you
Mayor,
do
it's
my
just-
time,
Thank you,
it's entirely up
Councillor.
to me, Councillor McCullough.
Thank
and
you,
are not
Councillor
my keeper.
McCullough.
It's just the phone that keeps coming up
Yes.
and down,
Thank
Mr
you.
Mayor, and I'm finding it distracting.
Councillors,
Sorry.
please. Councillors, I'd like you to be concentrating on the debate so you can listen. If you're distracted by sending text messages, just well, I'm not going to argue with you, Councillor Richardson. Councillor Johnson, Knight, please continue. You have 2 minutes left.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Congdon speaks of the low score for option 5. Well, obviously that's going to be the case because if everyone is on one side or the other, then the middle is going to be the lowest. But reality is, if everyone agrees on that and we all go away unhappy, then that's a good result. I'll go on the record tonight and say that I will support that option 5. So there you go. I will try to be agreeable to an outcome. This whole process is just another example of the dysfunction in the council. We're already on a trajectory. We've had the local government department of local government here warning us that we're on a trajectory that may end up in an inquiry. One of the councillor, the core tenets is to make decisions.
Another point of order, Mr Mayor, please.
What's your point of order, please, Councillor?
Have we been advised by the department we're on a trajectory for an inquiry?
Oh, I thought that was their words when they were here.
They mightn't have used the word trajectory, but they said that we have to lift our game, I believe. So I really have no point of order. You have 1 minute left. Thanks, Councillor Knight.
Thank you. Good faith. We've got to make decisions in good faith. So how can you, as councillors, vote on something like the Midland Oval redevelopment when you don't know the finances? I don't understand that. I'd also like to mention some of the emails that we have received. We've had about 25, 26 emails from supporters of the Midland Oval project. But in every email, nobody, not one of them has made mention of 9 years of the accounts being kept secret. And I don't understand this blind trust. We've also been some of us have been labelled as undemocratic. But Councillor Johnson's motion is democracy in action. I mean, it's the mechanism in the Local Government Act to
Thank
overturn
you, Councillor Knight. That's your
decisions.
3
So
minutes.
please vote for the.
Thank you. Councillor speaking against the motion. Councillor Henderson, you have 3 minutes after you speak.
Councillors, what's the big picture here? The big picture here is that for many years, many years, not just business, but the residents of Midland have wanted us to get on with, and I stress get on with, the redevelopment and the revitalisation of Midland. And that's what this is all about. Now, we can talk about multiple scenarios in the future about what the cost might be. The point is they're nothing more than scenarios. The $25 million saving is only a scenario. It could occur depending on circumstance. It could occur if the council in the future decides. But the important thing here is that we may get more money for the land. We may get a profit. A classic example, whilst I'm not going off point here, Mr. Mayor, classic example is Elizabeth Quay. When that was proposed, the opposition vilified the government for $300 million of spend. Well, the fact is they sold the land and made a profit at the end. So this is exactly what this development is about. This is about the future planning, the future revitalisation. It's about the getting on with the process. If we want to talk about the survey, and that has been debated, statistically, if you get down around the 1.6% that we've seen in some cases of feedback, it becomes very shaky as to how you rationalise a response. When you get over 10%, you can actually start to get a genuine statistical response. And that's what we got. We got a solid answer from the ratepayers saying, get on with it. And I think that's the key here. This is about progressing it. The whole question of how
1
much,
minute left. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The whole question about money, about however much it could cost, it might cost. We've been through the scenarios. That's our job, is to look at the finances. We've done those things. It could make a profit, it could make a loss, but don't forget, in the long term, all of those developments that go onto that land will be a return of rates for the ratepayers. It's a very significant amount. Malaga, for instance, a number of years ago, I asked how much does it return? $22 million, and we spend almost nothing. Almost. The point is, that's the benefit to the community. The benefit to the community is that we see growth in the area, we see revitalisation, and we see a place for people to recreate. We've got other places around the area where people can recreate as well, and then conveniently they've been forgotten about. There's Tui Gardens, etc.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. That's your 3 minutes.
If I could just have a couple of minutes, a couple of paragraphs, should I say? I'm not going to push minutes. Thank you. Just to wrap up, thank you. So, councillors, a lot of rhetoric here has been about scare tactic, about cost. A lot of Facebook information has been misplaced, in my view, because it does not really tell the story. The story is about the development. The story is about the future, and it's up to future councils to make those determinations. That's the key here. I don't want to expand any further than that, other than to say that I would like to see Midland go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker for the motion, Councillor Bowman.
Mr. Mayor, I feel I need to apologise to you, I need to apologise to the rest of the councillors, and I need to apologise to the community.
Just keep it respectful, please, Councillor Bowman.
As it seems to me that if I hadn't worked on a compromise option, if I hadn't have listened to all the parties, no matter what their view, if I hadn't tried to get this council to actually come together And if I hadn't tried to get a better option for our ratepayers and residents, while at the same time allowing this council to actually get on with this development, then perhaps what I've seen over the last 4 to 5 weeks in particular would not have occurred. Mr. Mayor, yes, my option would have, based on staff figures, provided a $25 million saving on 2018 figures. It would have increased public open space by over 8,000 square metres or 2 acres in the old way. It provided for the needed car parking, but it still allowed for a civic building if that's the direction council wanted to take. And the future rate income was similar to the Moore, a far superior financial return. Mr. Mayor, I am, and let me say that again, I am disgusted by some of the behaviour that I've seen on this issue. And it's no wonder I've seen far too many comments written about this council and a lack of ability, a council that I am part of. Mr. Mayor, we all know, but perhaps it's best to pretend, but I'm going to call it out, that both sides have garnered support for their views. And one only has to read the emails that we have no doubt all received to see this. And what is actually included, or more so, what is not included, but also certain language. Mr. Mayor, a letter to the editor from the City of Swan with no name, criticising a ratepayer. This told me a lot. The full-page advert from 5 councillors. What were you thinking? The Facebook comments, which some that I've read were quite disturbing. And again, from different people, pro and against.
You have 1 minute left, thank you.
Let's not forget the questions and answering provided at last week's agenda forum. Councillors telling completely incorrect information. Perhaps they may have not read the information, or perhaps it was to justify their own position. Then there was the petition at the Chamber's breakfast. What about those councillors trying to skew the results of the preferred option by all putting a 0 when it was all required to be scored 1 to 5? And I could go on and on, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I contemplated at this stage pulling out some socks and jocks and other washing so I could also air my dirty washing. But I thought I'd better not, because a complaint would have cost this council and the ratepayers $5,000. Mr. Mayor, there are some extremely polarising views. Some councillors have always appeared to be that they would never budge no matter what was proposed or what occurred. And I must question, are they doing it for the best outcome for all residents and ratepayers? How about the decision without any financial implication to save the heritage houses? A decision that perhaps costed $5 million. How about the Morm that actually can't be followed as things have changed or not supported, such as the intersection of Morrison and Sayer?
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. How much have you got left, please?
I've got a little bit, Mr. Mayor.
In time, a minute?
2, please.
Well, I've given everyone a minute. I'll give, well, you didn't ask for a minute. Everyone who's asked has got a minute, so you've got a minute. Thank you, Councillor Bowman.
Mr. Mayor, no matter what councillors' views on the Midland Oval are, the process was not followed. We heard about that. Let's talk about option 5. Option 5, an option that I tried to get to the drawing table for 5 months. An option that was incorrectly financial modelling done 3 times by staff. An option that some councillors had already voted on before the proper financials came through. Mr. Mayor, I've heard from ratepayers and residents and heard from them that what some councillors are saying. I don't think everyone understands option 5. And how could they? Mr. Mayor, it's still not clear to me why the process wasn't followed. There's a lot of issues here, but Mr. Mayor, this council needs to come together. How? I've been trying. Are we there yet? Definitely not. But councillors, make sure we are doing it for the right reasons. And I'm talking to every councillor here. Make sure you can put your hand on your heart and say the decision that you're about to make or have made is for the right reasons. Not for political reasons, not for a certain group, nothing else. The right reasons.
Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Speaker against the motion.
Got a question.
What's your question,
Mayor.
Councillor Johnson?
Could Councillor Congleton be given an extra minute?
Well, he's already spoken. No. Councillor Budovnik, you're speaking. You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, I found it quite interesting listening to Councillor Bowman and his sort of assessment of everyone's motives for voting, I don't think he's able to make any assessment there.
Point of order, Mr.
That
Mayor.
should have been a point of order from me to you, actually.
Thank you.
Did I
what's your
say
point?
any motives about any councillors? Mr. Mayor, what I was imputing was I imputing.
Councillor Bowman, I'll rule you have no point of order. Councillor Podovnik, can you please read from your debate notes and...
I'll keep this brief.
Thank you.
It needs to be put on the record that there is a lack of agreement on council for option 5. Now, council cannot agree on proposed changes to the design, and option 5 was not supported for a number of reasons. I'm not going to go through all of those reasons here tonight, but it wasn't supported for a number of reasons. Some councillors support removing all the roads, some councillors don't, and say it's not good planning to remove roads for a development with high-rise apartments. I agree that we need to get as much public open space in the design as possible, but option 5 is not the solution. I don't support removing the roads. The traffic congestion on Morrison Road alone would be an issue, and I don't support selling the 4 heritage houses on the avenue the community has fought so hard to save for a number of reasons. Again, I won't go into those tonight.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
That is
Sorry,
on the option
Councillor
5.
Podovnik.
Option 5 doesn't suggest that.
I've actually got a copy of option 5 and it says that down the bottom. I've asked for that.
Well, I haven't seen that, so I'm going to just ask you to keep on point.
That's
Thank you.
what I've received from staff. I've got option 5 and it's listed quite clearly.
Thank you. Please continue.
The only 2 options we have now are clear. We either stall the development indefinitely as council continues to be unable to reach consensus and go round and around in circles, or we go forward with the current plan, encourage investment, improve the design and keep the costs down. I vote for the latter. The Oval will be developed in 6 stages, and at every stage there may be an opportunity to negotiate more public open green space, save more heritage houses and divert more costs onto the developer, all of which aligns with my election commitments. I am happy not to support this revocation motion.
Thank you, Councillor Podovnik. You've got a minute and a half left if you wanted it, but...
I've said my piece.
Thank you. Speaker for the motion, councillors. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and those in the gallery. Well, this will be the last night tonight for this year of discussing the MORM for a few more months. We've tried to work together with 3 workshops. We have made some compromises. We have begun to open up the communication lines. However, to be honest and to not sugarcoat it, let's be honest here, there's always going to be a split and there always has been. Look at the community groups versus those in the chamber. We've got community members, we've got those that support other community groups such as Swan Chamber of Commerce. We have associations in the gallery. At this stage, whether or not this is passed tonight, this is not going to end here. So we can go over and over and over the details tonight. We can fight and have it on record, but I suggest we get on with the vote now and look to the new year and see what we can make out of this.
Are you finished? Any other speakers for or against the motion, councillors? No other speakers? Then before I hand back to you, Councillor Johnson, for your right of reply, I'll enter the debate. Thank you. I'll hand the chair over to the Deputy Mayor. So, councillors, tonight we're here to make a decision about the Midland Oval redevelopment. And for the past 4 or more years, the MORM has stagnated for a variety of reasons. The MORM was adopted over 4 years ago in 2018, when then Councillor Elliott moved to increase the public open space by over 5,000 square metres, but not all of that public open space was green grass. It in fact included an undercover play area so children could still play in inclement weather. The council did listen and did increase the public open space back in 2018. In May 2021, this council adopted then the motion of Councillor Kiley, which has been generally referred to as the sunset clause. I might add that I wasn't in the chamber at the time that motion was voted on, but council again adopted a motion to conduct a workshop conducted by independent facilitator, Mr. Brendan O'Neill. You've heard about the workshop and somehow it mysteriously got stopped or was cancelled. Here's the letter, and I'll read excerpts from the letter that Mr O'Neill wrote to me, which I then forwarded on to all councillors. The current plan and approach has seen significant investment that appears to be eroding in value. I appreciate that the redevelopment of Midland Oval is important to the city's long-term future. It has invested significant resources so far and has the potential to enhance the city's well-being further. But sadly, there remains a range of issues, challenges and opportunities preventing you from moving forward. I expect that reputational, economic and other risks will begin to emerge with a material impact on the city. Like all communities, current and future citizens seek leadership to set guidance, to set clear guidance. I do not believe, and these are the words of the facilitator of the workshops, I do not believe the current council will likely find common ground. After almost 6 months of debate, I believe the only way forward is to vote on a preferred option and, once chosen, develop a new strategy and action to achieve the outcomes. So last month, councillors, we debated Councillor McCulloch's notice of motion to proceed with the MORM with an absolute majority of councillors on that motion. Tonight, we're here again to vote on the rescission motion as allowed under our local laws and meeting procedures, which is part of our democratic process. All I ask as the presiding member is that once this rescission motion is voted on tonight, whichever way it may be determined.
Have you got much more, Mr Mayor?
About a minute. About a minute.
About a minute? I'll give you that minute.
Thank you. I'm going to repeat that last paragraph. All I ask as the presiding member is that once this rescission motion is voted on, whichever way it may be determined, that all councillors accept and respect the decision made here tonight by the majority of your peers. Option 5 has been mentioned a lot. It was discussed and it was scored at the workshops. In fact, only 10 of the 14 councillors bothered to complete the scoring matrix on that. And to take into account, the facilitator gave every option that scored lowly or was given a 0 a 1. The current MORM, in fact, scored the highest with 39 points. Councillor Catalano's option scored second on 28 points, and all other options scored the lowest, including option 5, which Councillor Bowman, during his last debate, Mark said he didn't like, but he put it out there to try and bring cohesion, and even he didn't fill out the scoring matrix. All I say, councillors, once we make the decision tonight, please accept and respect the decision of your peers. No, it's too late. Sorry, Councillor Singh. No, Councillor Johnson, you're right to reply. And
a question, Mr Mayor. As Councillor Singh is new.
Point of order, Mr Mayor.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Councillor Singh, I asked twice. Did anyone else wish to discuss the matter either for or against? There was no indication. Once I've entered the debate, the only place I can go is back to you, Councillor Johnson, for your right to reply. You have 3 minutes.
Point of order, Mr Mayor. Can we suspend the meeting procedures, local law at this point, to allow Councillor Singh to speak? That's what I'd like to do. So
you can move a motion.
So it's an exceptional situation. So I'm moving that, if I may, Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that we suspend the meeting procedures, local law, to allow Councillor Singh to speak at this point. I realise it's an exception.
As you mentioned earlier on, Councillor Johnson, which part of the local procedures would you like to
Okay, I think I'm referring
suspend?
to 11.1, which allows me to suspend, allows council to suspend the meeting procedures, local law, and maybe if everyone else gets their book out. So 11.1 is suspension of the local law, and I think priority of speaking.
It'll be under order of debate, I think you'll find.
Corrupted members.
6.5, I'm hearing from the CEO, Councillor Johnson.
6.5, order of debate. Okay, in that case, Mr. Mayor, my motion is that under section 11.1 of our meeting procedures local law, which allows us to suspend the meeting procedures for the duration of one speech by Councillor Singh, I'd like to, and the sub-clause that I need to identify is, what was it, 6.5. So can we suspend 6.5 for the duration of one speech by Councillor
You're
Singh?
seconding that, Councillor Bowman. Thank you. Is there anyone against? Being no one against, I declare it carried. Councillor Singh, you may enter the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
I'll give you 3 minutes.
Thank you very much.
One.
Thanks, all councillor, please. I may have not much information about what happened in the past, but I have to heard all the councillor about the Midland Oval redevelopments. So what I get it, I get option 5 as well, and then I listen to Mr. Mel as well, all the councillor and debate. And what I meant to say is, should this plan have to be go ahead tonight, or is depend on the votes as a democracy? But just my request to the council, if have to be moved on, because it's no option, then have to be backstep. So if they have any option to reconsider, rethink with the best option, we are not against further developments, nobody even in the chamber. But this type of confusing in the chamber. So I want in the future have to be better outcome for the developments, and we all consider have to be not sacrifice, have to be ready with go ahead. So this is just my personal view in that. So is end of the time is depend on the council, whatever the decision comes up, whatever the vote come from the councillor. So that's I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Singh. We'll now go back to our normal process. Councillor Johnson, you have 3 minutes for your right of reply.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It might take me a bit longer than 3 minutes, if you don't mind. Look, as Councillor Singh said, I think it's clear that no one in this chamber is actually against the development. It's just exactly how it's done that matters. Councillor Lucas told us that Mr. O'Neill said that council should vote on the preferred option, and that's what we expected city staff to do, and that's the reason why I've moved this revocation motion. It's been said by Councillor Pridovnik there's a lack of agreement on option 5, but quite a few councillors did support option 5, and at the time in the workshops that the option was presented, it was not as fully developed as the other options. It was a genuine attempt by Councillor Bowman to come up with a compromise solution, and a lot of us liked it. I did. Councillor Bowman said that there's an opportunity here for a superior financial return. That's what we're all after. We're looking for a superior financial return, and we're looking for a greater amount of public open space, and that's what option 5 gave us. So to cut short the workshops, just go back to where we were, it meant that 9 months has been wasted. So for want of a workshop and an extra month, we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. A lot of information apparently on Facebook is misplaced, that's I think what one councillor said. But I think people are just expressing their point of views. And one thing that was said was, we want Midland to go places. Well, I do too. I've always thought that ever since I moved here. I thought, crikey, we could have some really big buildings in Midland. Councillor Henderson spoke about Elizabeth Quay. And well, you know, they didn't have too much trouble selling new land in the centre of Perth. You know, but we could do things to make Midland more attractive. And every time I look out of my office window, I can see Elizabeth Quay from my desk. And every time I look at it, I think, oh, if only that Chevron building had been built in Midland, if only we'd have had the ambition, we could have got that done. 25 million savings, Councillor Henderson mentioned, yeah, it's not certain. It's not certain, but if we don't have the final workshop, we won't know whether we can save $25 million. We should be looking at the big picture, and we should be looking at getting big businesses to move to Midland. It's a great location. It's got fantastic transport links. It's a wonderful place. Councillor McCullough said there's no reason for delay. Well, I don't think there is any reason for delay. Had Councillor McCullough not moved her motion in this meeting, we would have been debating a report from staff about the different options. It was some suggestion that this revocation motion is not democratic and orderly. Well, it is. It is in line with the Local Government Act and our meeting procedures, local law. It's exactly how things are supposed to be done. So it's not undemocratic at all. And it's not undemocratic to disagree.
You've had 3 minutes, Councillor Johnson. How much longer do you need?
Probably about another minute, Mr. Mayor.
You have 1 more minute, thank you.
It's hard to. I'm a bit slower than I should be because my writing is really poor. If only I'd tried harder at school to write properly.
Wasting time now.
I know I'm wasting time, Mr. Mayor. It's because I can't read it. A bigger park is definitely needed if we've got higher density in Midland. There's no doubt about it. You put up big blocks of flats, you need more park. And I see people who I know living in the blocks of flats in Weir Park. I think there's no reason to delay. And the thing that I often ask myself is, we've got a landowner who owns some big blocks of land in the Midland Oval area, but has not put up any buildings on them. And that's a question that needs to be, has put up one building, but there's 2 blocks of land that don't have a building on it. Finances. Councillors, the workshops included a financial analysis because we need to get a business outcome, a business-focused outcome, where we know we're going to make money. Another councillor said, our ratepayers are worried and we should release the accounts. So councillors, that 9 years of accounts,
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. That's your additional minute. Thank you.
I think I've got just 1 more page to go, Mr. Mayor.
How long is that going to take?
About 15 seconds. So, councillors, we should release those accounts because then the community will see how we're spending their money. Another councillor said it's important to reach a consensus, and I agree with that. We can't go down this path of having 8-7 votes on this. We really need to get a consensus. And the workshops were leading to a consensus, and there was a possible way forward. So why stop it? That's why why I put this revocation motion forward. I thought a compromise could be found that we could all agree on, because with the change in composition of council, it looked like we got a way forward. Imagine, councillors, if we could put all this behind us and the workshop produced an option such as option 5 or a modification of it that we could all agree on.
Johnson.
This would all be in the past, and
You've
we'd
had
be
30 seconds.
moving
I'll ask
forward.
you to resume your
So,
seat.
councillors, support
Councillor
my
Johnson.
motion.
Thank you. I'm now going to put the revocation motion. Those councillors in favour. I have Councillor Bowman, Councillor Johnson, Councillor Howlett, Councillor Singh, Councillor Catalano, Councillor Knight and Councillor Richardson. That is 7. The motion is lost. Those against were Councillor Jones, Councillor Podolnik, Councillor Congdon, myself, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor McCulloch and Councillor Parry. Thank you, councillors. That takes us to the next item on the agenda, which is a confidential item. And I'll ask all members in the public gallery, thank you for your attendance. But we'll now make sure that we'd like to read out the thank you. The council has come out from behind closed doors. There was a number of items discussed, and in relation to that, item C 1.1, Councillor Johnson, revocation of sale of the proposed lot 811 Junction Parade. That motion failed, was lost, and the original motion will stand. In relations to item C 3.1, C 3.2, C 3.3 and C 3.4, all relating to acquisition by agreement on Stock Road in Bullsbrook, different lot numbers. The officer's recommendation was carried on all of those items. And in relation to item 13.1, the commercial lease of lot 11 and 12 of Great Northern Highway, the motion was the council resolved to one, that the subject to compliance with the relevant requirements of section 3.583 of the Local Government Act 1995, council resolved to one, authorise the CEO to enter into lease for lot 11 and 12, number 37, Old Great Northern Highway, Midland, in accordance with the indicative terms contained within the report if no submissions are received. Two, amend the adopted 22-23 revenue budget for 37 to 39 Great Northern Highway, Midland, from 24,000 to 43,000. Three, approve additional expenditure of 25,000 for the restoration of the power to be funded by municipal funds, which to be increased as a result of the additional rental revenue to be received from 37 to 39 Great Northern Highway, Midland. And four, the reason for changing the offer's recommendation is to ensure the recommendation is compliant with section 3.58 in bracket 3 of the Local Government Act. Thank you. Councillors, that now takes us to the next item. It's item 5.5, targeted underground power. And I think Councillor Johnson, you were first on that item.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My motion is that council resolve to, one, authorise the CEO to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Western Power.
Sorry, Councillor Johnson, can I just stop you there? I'm just on what item?
For this item here, you did provide some advice just whether councils have got a financial interest and whether they needed to.
Sorry, I've just been asked by the CEO, did three councillors receive advice from the governance officer about this item and whether they had to declare a financial or impartiality interest? Yeah, that advice was sent by email this afternoon to the councillors concerned. So I'm just
Impartiality by virtue of living in Midland.
If you're going to be affected by the targeted underground power program.
Along with every other Midland resident and business.
Not every other resident or business owner is a councillor on this council. Councillor.
Oh, well,
I'm
I can
just bringing
declare
it to
an
your
impartiality. I can declare an impartiality interest, but there's a hell of a lot of people out there.
I'm just bringing
that
to your
will benefit
attention
from it.
that an email was sent to certain councillors. You either received it or you didn't
Yeah, okay.
receive it.
I'll declare an impartiality.
So, thank you. Sorry for interrupting, Councillor Johnson. If I could ask you to go back to the start of your. Yeah, did you? The CEO is saying that if you declare a financial interest, you have to leave the chamber and couldn't vote on this item. You may certainly ask a question, Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Mac. Through you, Mr. Mac, can I ask a question to the CEO? Living in Midland, does that not affect me on the Midland redevelopment master plan as well? If it will improve my housing value, perhaps? Is that a financial interest? I'm unsure as to where the lines are drawn when it comes to the decisions that are made in Midland and how often I need to declare that.
Thank you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And obviously the responsibility of the administration to make councils aware of the potential risk. And that's why I'm simply injecting myself into the discussion at this point in time. If you lived in the direct Morn precinct, you would have a financial interest. If you didn't live directly in the Morn precinct, you probably won't have a financial interest. You might have partiality interest, depending on how you consider it. We're drawing to your attention the fact that you actually live in the TUP zones. And as a result of the TUP process, if it leads to a financial uplift in the values of the housing in your precinct, then you'll have a financial interest in the item. You would also potentially have a proximity interest just by the fact you live in the zone. You have to ask under the proximity interest, is this an interest in common? Now, we're only talking about 3% of the properties of the whole of the district. I'm not talking about 30% or 100% where you come to the budget, it's 3%. So I'm drawing to your attention in case someone comes back afterwards and said, no one told me that I have a financial interest or an impartiality interest, that everyone did receive the advice from Ms. Hodgkins this afternoon.
Got a question,
So just to be clear, if I state a financial interest, I'll be required to leave the room for the voting. And the implications of me not declaring that would be that,
Serious.
okay, thank you.
So if someone came back and lodged a complaint, either a member of the public or otherwise, or the department looked at it and said, look, you had a financial interest in this, you knew that the program was going to go ahead or had a potential to go ahead as a result of the MOU, it would lead to an uplift in property prices in the area which you're a direct beneficiary of at some point in the future. That's what I'm just drawing your attention to.
Appreciate that. And does that also occur, that also stands for councillors that have investment properties in Midland as well? Or just for those that reside in Midland?
If they had, through the chair, if they had an investment property in the TUP zone, they would also have a similar financial interest. So you don't have to leave. You could take the risk and the thing, but I'm just drawing attention. To me, there are two risks, financial or impartiality, and I always believe on erring on the side of caution.
Councillor Johnson, you were next if you had a further question.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. This scenario has emerged before in Guildford, and the process followed then when we had a financial proximity interest was to write to the state government and ask the minister to give permission to allow the councillors to participate. So the question I've got is, can we defer this item to the next meeting, which would be February, in order to give time for the staff to write to the minister to ask for permission for those councillors with a financial interest to participate in this item?
Mr. Coaten, thank you.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, we can't defer. Western Power have indicated that we need to get back to them imminently, or they will proceed with the replacement of the overheads and the overhead lines, and we'll miss out on this round of funding. So it's not possible to, if it is deferred, but the project won't go ahead.
Councillor Prodovnik, you had a question?
I'm in Hawley Road in Midland and I'm there. So do I have a financial interest here? I didn't see the email.
Thank you. Through the chair, are you in the TUP precinct, the area shown in the map in the agenda item?
It's Hawley Road in Midland.
If you're not in the TUP precinct, you don't have a
I
financial
advise that
interest.
you're not in the TUP zone, Councillor Prodovnik. Councillor Catalano, you had a question?
Yes, the council can make a decision.
Thank you. Councillor Catalano has the floor and is asking a question.
If there is a financial interest, can the council make a decision that the councillors stay in the council, or is there an absolute mandatory requirement to leave?
No, if it's a financial interest, you must leave the chamber.
And that's just a presumed financial interest. There's no actual financial interest.
Well, that's your decision, Councillor Catalano. Councillor Parry, you've got a question? Did you hear that question? Perhaps if I could ask you to repeat the question and just speak a little bit louder, please, Councillor Parry.
Anything that you've been aware of from your research in regards to this item?
The answer is yes.
There is examples here.
Through the chair, the answer is yes, but it's not specific to this type of particular project. So we simply, based on that, Councillor Parry, providing advice that if I was looking at this, I'd say, well, firstly, I live in the area and therefore I hit the issue for proximity. And because the proximity is not significant from the perspective, it's more than, you're only dealing with 3% of the ratepayer as a whole, that I'd say you firstly hit a proximity interest, but secondly, there's also a fair chance of having a financial interest in that the project has the direct opportunity to benefit your property, uplift property values in the area, and you'd be receiving a subsidy effectively from the state government to achieve that. So that's why I think you have one of two interests.
Sorry, Councillor Bowman was first with a question.
Mr. Mayor, probably just adding to that, local government operational guidelines, number 20, disclosure of financial interest at meetings, has it all clearly there with examples for every councillor to read.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson, you had a further question?
Yeah, I've got a question based upon some experience in this matter. No one's ever made a serious bridge complaint about me. But the question I've got is this is clearly a financial and proximity interest, and it's clearly also potentially a serious bridge. But the question is, would the Department of Local Government actually take it seriously? I don't think they would, because the financial gain is so remote that I think they just throw it out. So you could put in if the councils stay, someone who wanted to could put in a complaint, but it would be just thrown out because it's the financial gain is too remote. That's my view.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson, for your insight. I'll ask again, if there's no other questions, then I'll ask you to move your motion. Councillor Johnson, I note you've been advised, Councillor Podovnik, that Hawley Road is not inside the TUP area. Is not. Now, Councillor Johnson. Advise a date. So that he's just asking for an advice. Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
I think everyone's made their mind up. My motion is that council resolve to authorise the CEO to enter into a memorandum of understanding with Western Power to proceed with the targeted underground power programme in Midland and Woodbridge. Note that the detailed project planning and community engagement will be undertaken, after which time a report will be presented to a future council meeting for a decision on the implementation of the programme. 3, this is the new part, write to Western Power inquiring if Western Power can advise a date when Guildford will be part of the targeted underground power programme. 4, record the reason for changing the officer recommendation is that Guildford Power infrastructure appears to be a similar age to that of Woodbridge and Midland. Residents of Guildford have been asking for underground power for some time. And before anybody seconds it, Mr. Mayor, do I need to declare an impartiality interest because I'm talking about Guildford? I live there.
Well, I don't believe you do, because what you're saying is write to Western Power to see if they can advise a date when Guildford will be part of the TUP. When Guildford is part of the TUP, then that's the right time to declare an interest, in my view. And just for the record, please note that Councillor Knight, Councillor Catalano and Councillor Howard have left the chamber. I believe they've all filled in the forms. Thank you. I'll ask if there's a seconder for the motion. Councillor Podovnik, I'll ask if there's anyone against. What's your amendment, please, Councillor Parry? I'll ask Councillor Johnson. So Councillor Parry's asking Councillor Johnson if you can take your point 2 out and put his point 2 in the motion below. If you can read that, and then I'll ask whether that's acceptable or not to you and Councillor Podovnik.
I'm against that change of Councillor Parry's, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Parry's amendment has been seconded by Councillor Bowman, but I think I have to open the debate by Councillor Johnson and Councillor Podovnik, and then we'll deal with the amendment. So you have 3 minutes. Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
Just a question, Mr. Mayor. So you're expecting the process you're going through is you want me to speak to my substantive motion, or
yes, you speak to the substantive motion, and then we can then put the amendment and speak to that.
All right, fair enough. Look, councillors, in my substantive motion, all I want to do is to agree with the officer's recommendation and throw in a letter to Western Power asking when Guildford will be part of the targeted underground power programme. And the reason is, all the time, I've been a councillor, people in Guildford have been saying to me, "Oh, councillor, why can't we have underground power?" And what I've always said to them is, well, it'd be great to have underground power in Guildford, but I can't expect the ratepayers of the City of Swan to support underground power for Guildford. I think it's while it would be a great thing to have it, it would possibly suit the heritage of the area, or possibly not, because of course those power poles have been there since 1910, and some of them are the original 1910 power poles. It would be unreasonable to do that for Guildford and not do it to other older parts of the town. So that's why that's why I'm asking the letter for the letter. It's as simple as that. If Woodbridge and Midland are getting the targeted underground power programme, then inevitably I will be asked why aren't Western Power doing Guildford? So that's the reason for the letter. It's an obvious thing to do. So that's why I'm doing it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Podovnik is the seconder.
I've got nothing more to add.
Thank you. Speakers against or speakers to the amendment? Councillor Parry.
Very quick. The reason why this is important is that it's very important to figure out if it's if it can be a good state project. There being other surveys before in Western Australia, I think it's Coburn, if I'm correct, with 50.8% wishing to set underground power in Gloucester. That's the number I've been researching. It's also important to ask the ratepayers if they're willing to report of the potential costs of the project as well. I think that's quite important for the residents of the affected change in the area, but also other areas such as Grafton, Face, and Ellenville, with their people. It's unfair on them for them to have to pay for Midland and Midland Woodbridge's underground power. They pay it and they pay for subdivision lots that they have as well. And the third point is that it's important to go through the consultation early, as noted in my reason point 3. The MOU with Western Power is not binding. Therefore, if the community does not want underground power, it makes sense to do it early, later, after the progress as well. So there's three reasons why we have that in. I think it's quite important for all ratepayers in the city of Swan to understand what needs to happen, and also to give people that have, also give the residents of the affected area the opportunity to say yay or no. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bowman is the seconder. You don't wish to speak. Any other speakers for or against the amendment, councillors? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, look, having read it through in a bit more detail now, the only part I don't like is potentially fund the project. I think the rest of it's good. We should definitely have community engagement. We should definitely ask them if they're willing to participate. But I think to ask people in Midland and Woodbridge, and particularly Midland, if they want to potentially fund the project, I don't think it's fair. And the reason I don't think it's fair is they're in a situation where, as we know, Midland needs to be developed. It is an old suburb. The infrastructure, as it says in the report, is old and it needs to be replaced. So that's the reason it needs to be replaced. But to then ask them to fund them, just fund it as a special area rate, I presume, just because the infrastructure is old, seems to me to be unfair. So I support the rest of it, but not the potentially funds. So I guess I should have negotiated this in advance. So I guess I don't want to amend the amendment, but I'd just like to foreshadow a different amendment that is exactly the same as what Councillor Parry's proposed, but without potentially fund the project. So I'll just foreshadow. Yeah, of course I can't amend my own motion. So I feel tied up in knots, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. You got a question? You want to end the debate? Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Councillors, the last I just heard that it's not fair to have people pay to improve the value of their land. I mean, someone else has got to pay for it. That's just not fair. If I buy a block of land in Dayton or wherever, it's all underground. When you buy the block of land, you're buying the cost of putting the power underground. The fact of the matter is that, yes, we want to proceed with this, but the reality is that everyone's going to get an uplift in value. So for them to be effectively be notified by us saying that potentially they're going to have to pay, I think we should be letting the community know that. It's important that they know that. So
They may not want to spend some dollars to improve the value of their land, but we should tell them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers for or against the amendment? Being no other speakers, I've got a question of you, Mr. Coaten. Will there be any cost to the residents inside the TUP area if we proceed down this line and adopting the recommendation and having that consultation? Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the intention with this report is simply for council to endorse the signing of the memorandum of understanding. Further detailed planning and costing will be done by Western Power. The city will have an opportunity to undertake community engagement. A report will come back to a future council meeting, and at that council meeting would be the decision whether to ultimately proceed with it, and any funding contributions that are made by residents would be made at that meeting. So that will be a decision at a future council meeting.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers for or against the amendment? Then I'm putting the amendment, councillors, and the amendment is to replace Councillor Johnson's point 2 with Councillor Parry's point 2. And the reasons you want to write a reply? Okay, I didn't hear the reasons in your first part when you moved them in. Do you want your right to reply, Councillor Parry? Thank you. I'm now going to put the amendment. Those in favour of Councillor Jones, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Singh, Councillor Congdon, Councillor Zanino, Councillor Henderson, Councillor Richardson and Councillor McCulloch, however many that was, and I'm the only one against. Sorry. Against the Councillor Prodovnik, Johnson and myself, so that left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in favour. The amendment is carried and becomes part of the substantive motion. We're now back to the substantive motion. Councillors, are there any other councillors wish to enter the debate that haven't spoken? Being no other speakers, Councillor Johnson, your right to reply. Thank you on the amended motion.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I think it's a great motion. I think everyone should vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion. Those in favour? I have everyone voting for it, so it's unanimous. Thank you. The only people not present are Councillors Catalano, Howlett and Knight. If they can please be recalled to the chamber. Thank you, Mr Bishop. It's 7 minutes past 10, councillors. I believe we should finish tonight's proceedings here, but I'll be looking for a motion to re-adjourn to reconvene at 6 p.m. tomorrow night in these chambers. It's moved Councillor Congdon, second. Well, sorry, I'll just wait for the other councillors to come back into the chamber. Thank you, councillors. Just for those councillors who are out of the room during the last item, it's been resolved to adopt Councillor Johnson's motion, but however, point 2 was amended by Councillor Parry, and point 2 read, note that a detailed project plan and community engagement will be undertaken, after which time a report will be presented to a future council meeting for a decision on the implementation of the program. The community engagement should include a survey of the affected Midland Woodbridge ratepayers to determine if they're willing to participate and potentially fund the project, and the reasons for changing the officer's recommendation by Councillor Parry were also adopted as part of that substantive motion. I've just alerted Council the fact that it's almost 10 past 10, and Councillor Congdon foreshadowed that we adjourn this meeting and reconvene at 6 p.m. tomorrow night in these chambers. That was seconded by Councillor Bowman. I then realised 3 councillors were on the room, so I halted the voting on that. Is there anyone against that? 6 o'clock tomorrow night. Being no one against, I declare that carried. I thank everyone for their participation and close the meeting at 9 minutes past 10. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. And we